Chapter 711, Setting Off. How long will it fully open? Zhang Han asked. Violent energy waves have come out from the 5 world-lit entrances in Hua Nation at the same time. It is estimated that it will open in about 5 hours, and all the people in it will get out. You've got to be prepared. I will go back to the mystical martial world as fast as I can. Captain Xuanhuan will contact you later, Jiang Yanlan said. Her tone was different from usual, which was a little excited. She had not been like this for ages. Because perhaps another golden age of martial arts was about to arrive. Before hanging up, Jiang Yanlan hesitated for a moment and added, please send this message to Instructor Liu. Next time I come out, I'll use only one finger to beat him so hard that he won't be able to take care of himself. Okay. Zhang Han couldn't help laughing. He accepted the requirement and hung up the phone. It seemed that Jiang Yanlan would reach the divine realm the next time she came out. Nonetheless, Instructor Liu's strength would also improve a lot. Last night, Zhang Han refined the divine object, the serene world stone, and some other holy objects, into medicinal pellets. He prepared to give the pellets to Zhao Feng and the others this morning. It was expected that more members of the security group would become Wu Dao Grand Masters, and the 5 generals and Leng would also make great progress. They would be able to withstand a lot of beating as they reached the middle stage. In the face of a martial artist in the divine realm, Instructor Liu still had no way to fight back and could only endure blows. Are you going there? Xian put down her chopsticks and asked. Yes. Zhang Han nodded and said, if they are safe, I should wait for a few days before I set off because they will definitely come to me and Lilai immediately. But I am afraid that there is something wrong with the Heavenly Knights sect, so I have to go there as soon as possible. Stay safe, set off now and come back as soon as possible. Meng and I will wait for you at home. Xian bit her lower lip, a little reluctant to let him go. Papa. Meng pouted and said, you must come back soon with Grandpa and Grandma, and then we can hold the wedding ceremony. Meng will pass the bouquet to Papa and Mama. The little princess looked a little wronged. She also felt like going there and didn't want to be separated from her Papa. Don't worry, Meng. Papa will be back soon. Zhang Han made a series of promises to placate Meng before leaving the castle. When he walked to the edge of the square inches front of the castle, Chen Chenqing, Zhang Li, Wang Zanping, Wang Zanhong, Wang Ming, Rong Jiaxin, and Zhao Feng were all there. Master, the flight is arranged. We'll take off in half an hour. Good. Brother Han, I'll take care of everything here. Start the journey at ease. As long as I'm here, there won't be any problems, Chen Chenqing said with a smile. The underlying meaning of his words was that if something had gone wrong here, it meant that Chen Chenqing would have died. If anything unexpected happens, just follow the previous plan, Zhang Han said, nodding. Boss, I've made an agreement with my uncle, and the number 11 army has already set off to carry out a military exercise on Mount New Moon for a week, Instructor Liu said. With the presence of the army, even 10 martial art artists in the divine realm could not break in. Even for those in the earth realm, it was difficult to fight against an army. No martial superiors would dare to battle with an army head-on. Han, why don't you ask Grandpa Zhang and the elders to accompany you? Rong Jiaxin suggested. No need, I'll leave by myself this time. Zhang Han shook his head slightly. Auntie, Brother Han is very powerful. It's safer and more efficient for him to go on this journey alone. He will come back in a few days, Chen Chenqing said with a smile. Brother. Zhang Li walked to Zhang Han and said with a complicated expression, be careful. I will. Zhang Han rubbed Zhang Li's head and then looked around. He still saw concern in the eyes of some people around him. After all, the place he was heading for was a worldlet, where practitioners in the earth realm were the backbone force. There were also many practitioners in the heaven realm. Zhang Han's pressure was too great. Noticing their expressions, Zhang Han thought about it for a while and then said casually, the last time I came back, I crossed more than half of the earth. Of course, That was a journey in the world of the Bone Cave, one of the 3 Deadlands. I traveled across it as if I was walking on flat ground, so it won't be a challenge for me at all to go to the world lit. Buzz. His words struck many of them dumb. Crossed more than half of Earth, been to the Bone Cave? Shan Wangzhang couldn't help but gasp. The others looked even more astounded. They started to picture Zhang Han in the Bone Cave, one of the 3 Deadlands, going through all the obstacles and killing anyone in his way before he got out. But what they did not know was that in the Bone Cave, Zhang Han kept escaping here and there, for he was beaten by many creatures. Although the creatures that wanted to kill Zhang Han, they just couldn't catch him, who was as slippery as a loach. Regardless of whether they misunderstood or not, Zhang Han was pleased to see that his remark was effective. Then he nodded and said, "Take care of Xian and Meng for me, I'll hit the road." With that, he got in the car. Zhao Feng climbed to the driver's seat and started the engine. Before taking off, Zhang Han rolled down the car window by his side. He looked at Instructor Liu and said, "By the way, Captain Jiang asked me to pass you the message. She said that the next time she gets out, she will beat you with one finger so badly that you can't take care of yourself." After he said that, the car slowly drove away with everyone gazing at it. "Gee, that girl is too arrogant. I'll spank her hard next time." Instructor Liu's call echoed in the mountain. She was indeed arrogant. Instructor Liu's quirky behavior lightened the atmosphere. The world lit is opening. The martial arts world will once again enter a golden age, with the emergence of many new talents and senior masters. I'm afraid that it will take several years before the world quiets down again, Wang Zanping said with emotion. Ha ha. Shan Wangzhang gave a mild laugh and remarked, "Since 2 years ago, the martial arts world has fallen into a dead silence, with nothing exciting occurring. There were few witnesses to the big battles, for most people didn't get the news. They could only hear snatches of battles afterward. Up to last year, even inward strength martial artists and peak strength warriors had been classified as the strong ones. They've become the favorites of rich people. Chi strength masters are everary martial artists. Even Chairman Liu only managed to invite one peak strength warrior over. It's conceivable that how stagnant the martial arts world has been. In fact, we had all been waiting for the arrival of the world lit. It's just that with the appearance of Brother Han, this stagnant martial arts world starts to ripple and rage. A person's rise will definitely involve many battles. Brother Han's battles have intrigued the others and made them come out of their reclusive homes. Then, the martial arts world grows active. Now, the world lit has come. It's time to show them how strong Brother Han is. I believe he will dominate the world lit just as he has dominated the martial arts world." His words made many people's blood boil with passion. It was the dream of many to follow their leader to conquer the world. However, Wang Zanping, a sophisticated man, quickly threw cold water on him. "Well, I think that after Han brings his parents back, he will focus on raising his child, if nothing else." "Ah," Shan Wangzhang gasped. After giving some thoughts into it, he realized that it did seem quite likely. "That's fine, there's no point in fighting and killing." Zhang Li said approvingly. All right, I'm going to play with Meng," Rong Jiaxin said with a smile. "I'll go too." Zhang Li nodded. "Let's go." Zifan Wang Yi also led the way to the castle. Seeing that the women had set off together, the others also went to other places in small groups. "Chengqing, do you fish?" Wang Ming asked. "Yes, I do." Like that, they went in different directions. On the way to the airport, Zhang Han gave Zhao Feng bottles of medicinal pellets. Each of the bottles was tagged with the name of a member of the security group, indicating which one was suitable for which member. After chatting for a while, about 10 minutes later, Zhang Han got on the plane. He flew to Senmen. Senmen was a city by the Yellow River. The entrance of Kung's world lay in the depths of the plains between Senmen and Liuoyang. Zhang Han got off the plane. "Hello, Mr. Zhang, I'm here at the order of Captain Jiang to pick you up. The helicopter is ready." A man in a suit came over and saluted him. Good. She's really thoughtful. Zhang Han followed him into a helicopter on the roadside. It then rose into the air and headed for the destination. The entrance is heavy guarded. Because its location has been shifted, now it's not bad. It's near a small island in the center of the lake. The lake will be a major military base in the future. It's not open to the public. The area of the small island will be expanded by 3 times, and then it can be a new stable entrance. Mr. Zhang, that entrance is pretty like the ruins. They are both white mist in an oval shape. It's just that the entrance of the worldlet is more stable, and the mist is thinner. Sometimes it changes and can't be clearly seen with the naked eye. There are already many martial artists waiting to get in, some of whom are talented disciples, and some from the sects in the worldlet. The man was talkative and filled Zhang Han in on what was going on there along the way. Zhang Han had learned through his words that the opening of the worldlet had filled the secular martial arts world with tension. Many unknown forces had gathered at the entrance of the worldlet. Nevertheless, Zhang Han didn't care much about it. Chapter 712, Returning. About half an hour later, Zhang Han saw a moderate-sized lake located at a village in the east. While looking down from the helicopter, with his soul sense he detected that the outer walls of the houses around the village had the words demolition written on them. Obviously, this place had also been affected by the emergence of the gate of the small world. A man always makes his living according to his given circumstances. There were plenty of fish in the lake here. Although many elders were not willing to have their houses demolished, they had been persuaded by their children. Nowadays, as the saying goes, once the house is demolished, the house owner will get a Lamborghini or a Panamera. Since each owner would receive sufficient compensation to buy a new apartment even though the village was not a high-ended one, most of the villagers were in high spirits. A dozen teenagers who were playing at the east end of the village pointed to the craft that was flying lower and lower. Look at the helicopter, it's flying so low. Our village chief told me we will receive a high relocation fee so we can settle down in cities and live in buildings there. How excited I am. That's really true. I saw a great number of soldiers coming to the lake yesterday. It seems that the craft is also headed there. Shall we go over and take a look? Let's go. A total of 13 people, including those in their early teens and those aged 15 or 16, ran swiftly toward the west, as if they were chasing after the craft. They arrived at a slope as the helicopter landed slowly and looked toward the center of the lake not far away. The craft is on the island. All the ships belonging to our village are docked on the island. What are they going to do here? They had come over several times to watch the bustling scene because someone would stop them once they approached. However, they could not see clearly from afar, so they were very curious. Mr. Zhang, you can take a rest on the island or go to the ship over there. The man said to Zhang Han after the craft landed on the flat ground. Zhang Han nodded and went straight to the island, where nearly 100 people had gathered. They were standing at the entrance of the worldlet in groups. Many young martial artists stood there, their expressions aloof as most of them were at the Grand Master peak. Apart from their group, there were 5 middle-aged men at the Divine Realm, who stared at the entrance of the worldlet in front of them calmly. A thin mist with a radius of 20 meters hovered over the water 30 meters away from the shore, rendering the lake almost invisible. His soul sense, however, could clearly feel the strong waves there. There were about 15 small wooden boats over there. Most of them carried 3 to 5 people, while the others only carried 1 person. Some sawdust was scattered on the water. Obviously, there had been a fight over the location of the boats. Here comes Zhang Han Yang. Is he going to the Kungzu world? The instant Zhang Han appeared, many people present looked at him. Only a few men turned back after staring calmly at him, for they were so confident that they did not care much about Zhang Han Yang. Zhang Han ignored them totally and certainly had no intention to snatch a place on the boat. Instead, he sat directly on a flat stone at the side and took out his mobile phone to chat with Xian on WeChat. But he did not realize that plenty of people burst out laughing on account of his aloof attitude. Those who adapt their behavior to the times are wise. It seems that Zhang Han also regards himself as a nobody in the face of the worldlet. So, at least he is smart. He has offended many forces since he debuted. The Luofu Sword sect supporting Mugs, the Lihan sect backing Yilong Yuan, the Wind Snow School cultivating Shi Fengwu and the Li clan are all fostered by the worldlet, but it's too late for him to learn to be tolerant at this time. There were numerous talents who fell even before they were set up because they offended some powerful forces. He is neither the first, nor will he be the last. That's an indisputable fact. These people transmitted their voices secretly as they chatted with each other. In their opinion, what Zhang Han did was reasonable. In the face of the masters of the worldlet, a man at the divine realm was undoubtedly as weak as a common disciple. As time went by, some other people arrived on the island. Among them, a martial artist at the divine realm, seemingly in his 30s, drove the people on the boat away in a very domineering manner. The people there almost got into a fight, but luckily nothing happened. Everyone was waiting for the gate of the small world to open. Boom! At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, as a thud rang out from the entrance of the worldlet, the mist dissipated and its outline disappeared. The stars in that direction twinkled from time to time. Hiss! The worldlet is here. The gate of the small world is eventually opening. Ha ha, I can finally go back and make a breakthrough. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The men on the boats moved immediately and jumped forward, disappearing all of a sudden. It seemed that they turned into stars once they arrived at the horizontal disc-like entrance. But in fact, they entered a stable affiliated space, namely the worldlet. With the figures entering the worldlet in succession, the number of people present gradually decreased. However, Zhang Han kept calm, still sitting there and looking ahead. Swish! Finally, the first figure showed up. It was a middle-aged man in a cyan shirt. As his spiritual sense energy swept around the area, he frowned slightly. Did the exit move to another place? Swish, swish. 5 figures emerged at the same time behind him. They were all in their early 20s, each of whom was at the divine realm. As for the middle-aged man, he had already reached the earth realm. Why am I here? I remember the exit was located in the forest deep within the plain. How did it appear over the lake this time? Did they cultivate the forest into a lake over the past 5 years or so? Where am I? The middle-aged man at the earth realm glanced at the island and asked coldly, "My lord, this is a lake near the edge of the suburb of Sunman City, which is not the same place where the exit appeared before." The protector, as the leader of the men from the National Security Agency on guard duty here, answered hurriedly. After he finished speaking, the middle-aged man moved eastward quickly without any hesitation. The disciples behind him kept pace with him. They were soon out of sight. Swish! 7 figures showed up. They immediately looked around and muttered to themselves. Only one of them was at the divine realm, while the other 6 were at the Grand Master Peak. After briefly inquiring about the case and learning the news, they left directly. Among the 5 groups of people who appeared in the next half an hour, 2 were led by martial artists at the Earth realm. Going by the situation, Zhang Han had a rough idea. It seems that there are not many martial artists at the Earth realm in the worldlet. The 20 people who kept looking on outside were not in a hurry to go in, but Zhang Han could not wait any longer. I can't wait, let me go into the worldlet. Zhang Han moved, as he stood on a small boat. Swish! 3 minutes later, a man at the early stage of the divine realm emerged. Did the exit move to another place? The man who had a long angular face was stunned at this point. Hello, do you have a map of the worldlet? Zhang Han asked as he stared at him. What? The long-faced man glanced around and said haltingly at the end, "Are you talking to me? What else would I be doing?" Zhang Han nodded. You want the map? Aren't you from the worldlet? Which sect are you from? The long-faced man asked. Zhang Han did not reply but said, I can exchange some treasures for the map. Great. The long-faced man's eyes narrowed slightly, at least one Earth, heaven-grade treasure. His words revealed that the map could be traded for a low price. Zhang Han, however, did not care about its value. He took out a gem and threw it over. How straightforward you are. Something was better than nothing. After the long-faced man took the gem, he took out a piece of jade slip and gave it to Zhang Han. He did not leave immediately and instead stared at Zhang Han. Zhang Han checked it with his soul sense, suddenly becoming speechless. The map showed that the worldlet was as large as the 3 provinces in the east, but the sect's individual locations were not labeled on it. I have a more detailed map, but you need to exchange a divine stage treasure for it. When they heard the long-faced man's words, everyone on the island looked at each other. Was Zhang Han about to be deceived? Zhang Han became impatient with him and he condensed the 8,000 thunderclouds into a huge amount of soul sense, which spread in an instant. The long-faced man's face changed greatly. Is he a formidable master? Wait, I'll give it to you. Swish. He threw the real map over and ran away quickly after Zhang Han took it. With his soul sense, Zhang Han saw the real map, on which the locations of each sect and city were marked. Ha ha. The long-faced man who was now 1,000 meters away sneered. What a naive guy. As soon as he finished speaking, his expression turned a little gloomy. How did he find out? Is the soul sense he showed real? His scalp tingled as he thought about this for a moment. Judging from his chi and blood, he knew that Zhang Han was just a martial artist at the Grand Master late stage. He thought that Zhang Han mastered a frightening secret technique, so he played a trick on him on purpose, intending to teach the newcomer a lesson. Unexpectedly, a few seconds later, the soul sense marks hidden in the map by him were devoured. He looked back at Zhang Han and found that he was also staring at him. Since he was scared, he hurriedly flew away. Zhang Han ignored him but moved on, disappearing into the worldlet. The real map in the jade slip was kept in his mind. Clatter. The next moment, the scenery in front of Zhang Han changed. What he saw at this moment was the same as that of the outside world. The only difference was that he was on the slope of a mountain, surrounded by hills and ravines. The top of the mountain glowed constantly and this was an entrance to the worldlet. This is Mount Jianfeng. After checking the direction, Zhang Han flew quickly along the east side of Mount Jianfeng. He suddenly found that the area of the worldlet was much larger than what he expected, which meant that the proportion shown on the 2 maps he got was somewhat different. But Zhang Han figured it out after a while. After going eastward for a few miles, Zhang Han discovered that each sect occupied a large area. It seems that the Heavenly Knights sect is a little farther away. Zhang Han pinpointed the direction and flew over at a high speed. After flying for over 10 minutes, he eventually flew across the sect on the left. During this period, he caught sight of continuous mountain ranges and several spirit beasts sometimes. Suddenly, a fluctuation in the air came from the right. He found that a man in his early 20s was fighting against a python with his soul sense. The man was at the Grand Master late stage, but the python was only at the early stage. It, therefore, was instantly suppressed. Zhang Han moved quickly. As he approached, the young man had already killed the python. Who are you? After seeing Zhang Han, the young man immediately became alert and took out a jade slip. I just want to get some information. Zhang Han stopped about 50 meters away from the young man. What do you want to know? The Heavenly Knights sect. The Heavenly Knights sect, it's in the same location where it used to be. What did they do in the past? They continued to fight against the Wind Snow School. Could you tell me the details? Who are you? The young man frowned. Zhang Han replied after pondering for a while, I'm a mortal seeking my lost relatives. The young man's expression relaxed after hearing his simple words. He thought for a moment and answered, it's a known fact that the worldlet closed more than 5 years ago. From then on, without any external assistance, the Wind Snow School has been suppressed by the Heavenly Knights sect. The Wind Snow School used to have 700 disciples in the past, but now there are only less than 100 of them. As for the Heavenly Knights sect, it suffered minimal losses and now, it's a force with 3,000 disciples. If the Wind Snow School had not asked 3 other sects from the Kungzi world for help and paid a heavy price for that, it would have been destroyed. If you were from the Wind Snow School, you'd better hurry and check on what is happening. After he heard what he said, Zhang Han let out a long sigh of relief and nodded to the young man, saying, "You wielded your sword so rapidly in the last 3 minutes. If you held on for half a second longer, you would have gained something." Swish. Then, Zhang Han moved and continued to fly eastward. The young man had been accustomed to seeing people at the divine realm, but he frowned at this moment. "Did you ask me to wait for half a second? Why not half a year? According to the secret method, I should perform the move as quickly as possible." What did he mean? Did he understand the skill? The young man pondered for a while, but he could not restrain his curiosity and tried out the sword move in the end. Buzz. He waited for half a second to draw his sword. His eyes gradually widened as he felt a powerful force emerging from his arm to the sword all of a sudden. "I did it." Swish, swish. As Zhang Han continued to move eastward, 2 figures suddenly appeared in the center of the lake of the outside world. The masculine man was probably in his 40s, while the woman, with long hair down to her shoulders, wore a bamboo hat and a cloak. They 2 of them flew northward at a high speed, quickly disappearing in midair, heading for Shangjing City. They arrived at their destination about 6 hours later. They were Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali. "We're approaching." Zhang Guanyu looked at the familiar area and found that the Zhang clan was not far away. He could not help the quiver in his voice. He felt somewhat afraid. He was afraid of being close to home. He was not worried about the others except for Zhang Han and Zhang Li. In fact, his palms were trembling at this point. Rong Jiali was usually not the vocal type and along the way only uttered a few words, but this time, she choked with sobs. "We're back. What shall we do if they are not here?" Well. Zhang Wenyu patted her on the back and said, "It will be good to see them soon. Perhaps Zhang Han will introduce his wife to you. We should go a little faster." Rong Jiali stopped sobbing and became a little anxious. Swish. They increased their speed. 5 minutes later, the 2 of them appeared behind the manor of the Zhang clan. "Why aren't they here?" Rong Jiali said and was instantly overwhelmed by anxiety. What she said also showed the level of her soul sense currently, that was, she had already reached the divine realm. "I'll do a check." Zhang Wenyu frowned, for he perceived all the people in the manor, including Zhang Nan, the current head of the Zhang clan, but he failed to find Zhang Han and Zhang Li. He planned to ask Zhang Nan in person, but when he took a few steps inside, he caught sight of a boy about 16 or 17 years old, sitting on a chair at the edge of the lawn, playing with his mobile phone. "Hello." Rong Jiali could not help going over instantly and asked, "Excuse me, where are Zhang Han and Zhang Li? Who?" The young man put down his cell phone and asked as if he did not hear her words clearly. However, Rong Jiali's heart skipped a beat upon hearing what he said. "Zhang Han and Zhang Li." Zhang Guanyu responded in a deep voice. "Eh?" The young man suddenly hummed as if he was lost in thought and then he replied subconsciously, "This is my grand-uncle's home. Since I have only visited a few times, I don't actually have any details, but when I came here the year before last, I learned that Zhang Han was driven out because he made a big mistake and his sister ran away from home. I can't remember the details clearly, so you'd better ask someone else." Boom. Rong Jiali trembled slightly. Zhang Wenyu had a cold look on his face all of a sudden. After saying that, the young man turned back to his mobile phone, seemingly chatting with a girl. Swish. Zhang Wenyu, with Rong Jiali, suddenly turned into a stream of light and rushed into the main residence located in the distance. "Ah!" After chatting for a while, the young man suddenly exclaimed, "It seems that the man looks really like the man in the photo of the former patriarch." But he could no longer see those 2 people when he looked up. The young man scratched his head, mumbled inaudibly and continued to play with his mobile phone. At this point, Zhang Nan, together with the 5 superiors of the Zhang clan, were negotiating with the two men of the Chen clan. Zhang Han had previously asked Chen Shengqing for help. With the permission of the elder of the Chen clan, it supported the Zhang clan, and this partnership had never been severed at any time. But the resources of the Zhang family were limited and they had to take it one step at a time. As such, with its overall assets improving very quickly, it thrived well. Brother Chen, thank you so much this time. We are so sorry to ask for more. Let's cooperate according to our intention. Zhang Nan said with a smile. He looked truly radiant at this moment. Well, our Chen clan will reap the benefits again. A middle-aged man from the Chen clan burst into laughter. We'll provide you with better projects after you become more competitive in the future. That's all. I'll go back and report to my superiors. Okay. Everyone present stood up and saw them off with a smile. Swish. Before he reached the door, two figures showed up all of a sudden. All the people present were stunned and their faces changed slightly when they saw who they were. You're back? Guilt and shame flashed across Zhang Nan's eyes, followed by amazement. Zhang Wenyu, however, clearly saw the change in his eyes. Zhang. The two Jins smiled and were about to greet them. Suddenly, a heart-palpitating pressure suffocated them. Where's my son, and where's my daughter? Zhang Wenyu suddenly questioned them in a cold tone. Huh? I heard that you drove them out. I've made great contributions to the Zhang clan, right? How could you do that? Did you think that I would not be able to get out of the world elite? Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Wenyu appeared in front of Zhang Nan, who stood with his head down and stared fiercely at him. Everyone felt their scalps tingle as if they had fallen into an ice cave. They shouted inwardly, "This is a misunderstanding." Chapter 713. The Befuddled Parents. Under Zhang Wenyu's oppressive power, they found that their mouths seemed to be decidedly heavier than usual and they could not utter a word, even though they wanted to provide an explanation. The whole room was in dead silence. Zhang Nan and the others were frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. They knew that Zhang Wenyu, as a heroic man, was always gentle and seldom got angry with others, but nobody could stop him when he flew into a rage. When Zhang Nan and the two men from the Chen clan saw Zhang Wenyu's fierce eyes, they became terrified. He looks more dignified than our old master. The men from the Chen clan thought. Where are they? Rong Jiali, who was dressed in a cloak and a bamboo hat and standing beside the door, sobbed and shouted at this moment, "Where are they? Where are they?" She came back in a state of expectation and arrived at the Zhang clan with mixed emotions, feeling nervous, afraid, guilty and distressed at the same time. She was eager to see Zhang Han and Zhang Li and never thought the matter would end in this way. Feeling an immense heartache for a moment, Rong Jiali seemed to be really weak and had to hold on to the door frame with her right hand. Zhang Wenyu's angry gaze was tinged with pain after he heard what she said. After glancing at her, he realized that the pressure he subconsciously exuded rendered all the people in front of him mute. He, therefore, held his temper and retracted his aura which had been emitted inadvertently. Hiss, phew. Hiss. Phew. Zhang Nan and other men gasped rapidly. Under Zhang Wenyu's and Rong Jiali's gazes, Zhang Nan said something that stunned both of them. It's just a misunderstanding. Listen to me first. Zhang Nan said hurriedly and took a deep breath again. About 10 seconds later, he calmed down and his heartbeat started slowing down as well. When he was about to explain to them, he gave a wry smile. Gwenyu, we had to protect ourselves in the beginning and we had no other choice. I'm so sorry. He glanced at the two men from the Chen clan. Since they were around, he could only tell the truth instead of sugar-coating what he said to Zhang Guanyu. Zhang Han, your son, is indeed promising. In fact, even the whole Zhang clan is no match for him. Yes, he is a martial artist as well. I guess that he is a god state strong. Emperor King calls him Brother Han and the warlord of Chen clan is his friend. Their relationship is on equal grounds now. Boom. Zhang Wenyu's eyes widened and his pupils contracted simultaneously. As for Rong Jiali, she trembled and had a stunned expression under the shadow of the bamboo hat. What did you say? Zhang Guanyu grabbed Zhang Nan's arm and said, "Are you kidding? Do you mean that my son has reached the divine realm stage? Is that true?" "It's absolutely true." Zhang Nan winced in pain at his tight grip. He felt that his arm, like that of the heroine in The Rain, which was grabbed by the hero in the TV series, hurt a lot at this point. However, he did not dare to shake off Zhang Guanyu's hand and yell at him for hurting him. Instead, Zhang Nan could only say with a wry smile at this moment, "That's true. You can ask the Jins if you don't believe me." "Yes, it's true. Actually, we took care of the Zhang clan's business stealing on account of Zhang Han. He told us that he did it as a reward for the Zhang clan's kindness in taking them in for several years, and he would cut all ties with the Zhang clan from then on." Our elder was also present at that time. "Since he is in closer contact with Zhang Han, you can go to the North Sea Island to talk with him if you have any doubts." One of the Jins replied. Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali lapsed into silence after hearing what he said. Zhang Guanyu was still in a state of shock and felt numb as he digested the shocking news. Then the whole room fell into silence again. 10 seconds later, Rong Jiali's voice sounded, "How are they now?" "Great, indeed." Zhang Nan responded quickly. "Let's visit the old warlord first." Zhang Guanyu turned around and walked quickly to Rong Jiali. Then he looked at Zhang Nan and the others. His mouth moved, but he did not say anything in the end and left directly. Alas! After a while, Zhang Nan sighed, feeling somewhat regretful. Misfortune might be a blessing in disguise, but he felt that he had lost the chance of boosting the Zhang clan. If he had withstood the pressure and kept Zhang Han and Zhang Li in the family, the Zhang clan would have prospered now. Wait. The older one of the Chen clan suddenly said in surprise, "We forgot to tell them that Zhang Han is already married and has a daughter, right?" "Yes, indeed, we forgot to tell them the big news. If we did that, their expressions would have changed greatly." "Forget it, the senior master of the Chen clan will tell them." They started chatting with each other. As for Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali, they flew to the North Sea at a high speed. They arrived at the central island half an hour later. "Here you are." The warlord of Chan clan stood in the yard and on the tea table under the willow tree. There were 3 chairs placed there. The hot tea was ready. Senior warlord, Zhang Guanyu kept calm, for he knew that the warlord must have been informed by the 2 members of the Chen clan. After Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali landed, they greeted each other and sat down at the tea table at the warlord of Chan clan's invitation. "Are you surprised?" Suddenly, the warlord of Chan clan stared at Zhang Guanyu and said, "Are you amazed? Are you happy?" I'm surprised, amazed and happy, ha ha ha." Zhang Guanyu was stunned for a moment and then burst out laughing. Even Rong Jiali smiled and was in high spirits. She took off her bamboo hat, revealing her beautiful face. Unlike Xian's exceedingly attractive appearance, Rong Jiali's face was relatively gentle and had a beauty of its own. "Don't show off in front of me." The warlord of Chan clan made a joke suddenly. "My eldest grandson is almost as old as your son." With the help of the cultivation method offered by Zhang Han, Chenking became much more powerful. However, before your son reached the divine realm stage, he was not as formidable as Chenking. "Ah, wait a minute." Zhang Guanyu was dumbfounded. "I heard that my son has reached the divine realm stage. But what's going on with the cultivation method, Chenking? Is he so powerful now? You were not aware of that?" The warlord of Chan clan was stunned, but then he said, "Chenking absorbed the king dragon blood and cultivated the skills related to all 8 drought demonic dragons with Zhang Han's assistance. Now, the power of his bloodline has broken through the 4th stage and his strength is almost on par with mine. As for Zhang Han, he has already reached the divine realm stage." The warlord of Chan clan looked serious at this moment and said, "After he broke through to the divine realm stage, he left an extremely mysterious impression on me. It seemed that he, just like Xuanhuan, was invincible, when we were in the Western world. He directly reached the Divine Realm stage while fighting with the enemies and killed 13 masters at the Divine Realm stage with an incantation in the end. Even Halon Prince was refined into a drop of blood by him, which was totally incredible. Yi Danlang deemed that he had obtained the martial arts heritage of predecessors from the Black-White Palace. I thought he was more powerful than Zhang Shenwang. What a promising young man he is. You do have a good son. Why is he so formidable? Zhang Guangyu was a little startled and he said in surprise, my son is really powerful. Ha ha ha, what about my daughter? Zhang Li isn't a martial artist yet. Senior Chen, you just said that my son has reached the Divine Realm stage, so how is he now? Rong Jiali was more careful and asked, why did you go to the Western world, Senior Chen? How did you offend the Prince of the Vampires? Zhang Han has his own idea for breaking through to the Divine Realm stage. In fact, he wants to make a perfect breakthrough. Anyway, I don't know much about it except that he has gained high combat strength from then on. After returning to Hong Kong, he cut his own cultivation and reached to the Grand Master Peak in a few days. I haven't heard anything about his breakthrough. As for the reason why we went to the Western world, I'll tell you in detail later. By the way, the Heavenly Treasure School opened a few days ago and Han went into the 7th layer as well. How awesome he is. He should have exchanged some powerful treasures. He once told me when we parted ways that he would go to the Kungzi world to bring you back as soon as the world reopened. This morning, Chen King called me, saying that Zhang Han had already left. He should have appeared at the entrance of the world. Now that you came out through it, you should have seen him. We did not see him. Did he come to us? Zhang Guangyu raised his eyebrows and shook his head helplessly. He's so smart that he should have known that we would come back first. We should have waited for a while. The world lit hasn't been open for 5 years, so no one knows what's going on inside. Perhaps he's more worried about the Heavenly Knights sect. The warlord of Chan clan sighed. How could something terrible happen to our Heavenly Knights sect? Zhang Guangyu said with a smile, if it were not for the joint efforts of several other sects, the Wind Snow School would have disappeared in the Kungzi world. However, some disciples of the sect survived. Let's stop talking about this. I want to know more about my son and daughter. Zhang Guangyu said while staring at the warlord of Chan clan. All right. The warlord of Chan clan took a sip of tea, glanced at Rong Jiali and said, we went to the Western world some time ago because Zhang Han was trapped in the lost relics. Under such circumstances, some enemies came out to create trouble since they coveted the treasures on the mountain. The man in bamboo hat of the Western world even led nearly 300 people. Gaik Singkong, Chen King, Jiwash Wang, the security group, the Wang family and I spared no effort to stop Liu Odyssey and the man in bamboo hat. But we failed and were seriously injured. Fortunately, at the critical moment, with thousands of lightning bolts flashing in the air, Zhang Han opened the strange space door and defeated these people with powerful covering attacks. Actually, he was at the Grand Master Peak at that point and used certain treasures. Anyway, I cannot figure out what they are. He's so formidable reputedly because he gained awesome martial arts heritage from his predecessors. The people around Zhang Han were all aware of the meaning of his words. But Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali were confused. Lost relics, what is it? The enemy's rebellion, who are they? So many treasures in the mountains, which mountain is it? What are the treasures? Why did the Western martial artists come over? They had numerous questions. But what the warlord of Chan clan said the next moment shocked Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali. Ziyan, what happened was totally beyond our imagination. At that time, the boat of curse appeared and immediately disappeared since it resonated with Ziyan. However, Ziyan fell off the cliff. The man in bamboo hat reached out to grab her as he wanted to suck her blood. Just as he was about to succeed, the space gate showed up. It was Zhang Han who dropped from the sky and executed his powerful moves. Besides, that group of people were injured as well, leading to a horrible ending, where only 2 of 9 martial artists at the Divine Realm stage had a narrow escape. The warlord of Chan clan sighed with emotion. I wonder how he came to possess such incredible strength. Wait, I am becoming more and more confused. Who's Xian? What's going on with my son? Is he in Hong Kong? Zhang Guangyu asked. Huh? The warlord of Chan was stunned again, then he burst into laughter and said, Don't you know yet? No, we know nothing since we just came out. Zhang Guangyu said with a wry smile, although I want to go through all this with them, but in the past few years, alas, we went to the Zhang clan just now and they told us that you get on well with Zhang Han, therefore, we came over directly. Rong Jiali explained, although her eyes were not big, they looked really beautiful. At this moment, listening to the matters about her son, she was very focused and serious. I thought you knew the whole story briefly. The warlord of Chan clan shook his head with a smile and then said, Shall I start from the beginning? Well, okay. Zhang Guangyu glanced at his watch and nodded, thinking that it would not take too much time. First of all, you should be mentally prepared. The warlord of Chan clan raised one of his fingers and then stopped speaking with a smile. 5 seconds later, as Zhang Guangyu drank a mouthful of tea, the warlord of Chan clan directly said, Congratulations on having a daughter-in-law and a granddaughter. Puff. Sure enough, Zhang Guangyu directly sprayed the tea on the table, which amazed the warlord of Chan clan. What did you say, Senior Chen? What do you mean that I have a daughter-in-law and a granddaughter? Ah? What? Han is married and has a daughter. Rong Jiali's eyes widened. Both of them were dumbfounded. Do I already have a daughter-in-law? Rong Jiali reacted quickly in this regard and had a lot of questions. Where's my daughter-in-law from? What does she look like? Is she good-looking? How tall is she? What's her personality like? When did they get married? How old is my granddaughter? When was she born? Ahem, ahem, ahem. The warlord of Chan clan was completely stunned by the series of questions. How am I supposed to know? Wait a minute. The warlord of Chan clan took out his mobile phone and said while typing awkwardly, I'm just aware of the general situation. And he knew nothing more. After waiting for a minute, Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali stared at the warlord of Chan clan, who then showed them his mobile phone. Only 2 words appeared on the search bar, Xian. Below the name were pictures. Is she pretty? I've heard of Xian before. Is she a star? Rong Jiali quickly came to her senses and asked, Is she our daughter-in-law? That's right. The warlord of Chan clan said with a smile, Your daughter-in-law is very beautiful, a pretty lady is indeed a good match for a hero. Besides, your granddaughter is really good-looking and lovely. How fortunate you are. Chenking once told me a lot about Zhang Han and I might as well tell you in detail because your questions confuses you and me. Okay, thank you, Senior Chen. The 2 of them nodded, sitting straight and listening carefully like students. Because you were trapped in the world lit as it closed, the Zhang clan declared that you were missing. Later, Zhang Nan became the patriarch. When you were in power, the strength of the Zhang clan improved rapidly, but it was lacking a profound background. As such, Zhang Nan failed to dominate the whole family. Moreover, your opponents launched an attack using Zhang Han, your son, as the excuse. In the face of so much pressure, Zhang Nan had no choice but to drive Zhang Han away from the family. Zhang Han, as a stubborn man, vowed to find out every detail of the case and stayed in Shangjing. He lived in a shabby apartment for 5 years and refused to leave even though he was bullied and despised by others. Zhang Guangyu trembled at this time as his eyes turned red, while Rong Jiali was in a bad mood and cried with her hands covering her mouth. The warlord of Chan clan did not say anything but continued to tell the truth, feeling that it was helpful for them to vent their emotions. As for Zhang Li, I heard that she ran away from home, but she transferred money to Zhang Han every month. She has grown up since you were missing. How time flies. 5 years passed quickly. It is Meng Meng who changed Zhang Han. Oh, by the way, your granddaughter's name is Zhang Yumen, which was given by Zhang Han. I don't know about the detailed relationship between Zhang Han and Xian, but I know that Meng Meng was less than 4 years old when she met Zhang Han. Blood is thicker than water. In a few days, the little girl conquered Zhang Han's heart. Zhang Han raced with others and won a sports car, which was going for millions of yuan. Then, he left Shangjing and reunited with Xian in Hong Kong. Later, for some reason, he became a martial artist. You are clear that people who are in the entertainment circle have to face lots of trouble. At first, Zhang Han faced many problems, but gradually, his strength improved greatly. It only took him a few months to become a master and he destroyed the Li family. At that time, he cast a spell, killing Li Zan and other grandmasters present with one move. Then, he became unstoppable and was acknowledged as Merciless Zhang. He is known as Zhang Han Yang in the martial arts world. After asking around, you will know that everyone in the martial arts world is familiar with Zhang Han Yang now. And then, it sounded like a legend, which made people feel a little dizzy. They spent an hour together. The warlord of Chan did not expect that he would be telling the story of Zhang Han for an hour. With the help of Zhang Han, Gai Xingkong made a breakthrough and is currently at the God Realm medium stage. That guy. Zhang Wenyu grinned on hearing the name, Gai Xingkong. The Wang family in Xihang also went to Mount New Moon. They are very nice and righteous. Rong Jiaxin also gives wholehearted support to Zhang Han. They went to Singapore later. Xian is a member of the Zhi clan in Singapore and they were engaged there. Rong Jiaxin thought that they were old enough to get married, so she came up with the proposal. However, Zhang Han insisted on getting married after you came back. The battle launched in Linhai was on a large scale. Zhang Han visited the Rong clan for the annual meeting and killed Gadon Glai, who had reached the divine realm stage. At that time, when I arrived in Shangjing, I met Chenking. I did not expect that the two of them were also on speaking terms. The Zhang clan suffered great losses as well. Later, I told him that you were not from the Zhang clan, so he made such a choice to help enhance their strength. He also announced that his family had nothing to do with the Zhang clan. At that moment, everyone considered that Zhang Han was not a patch on Chenking, but Chenking was defeated eventually. Zhang Han taught Chenking the martial arts related to all 8 drought demonic dragons. After destroying his meridians and cultivating in defiance of the natural order, Chenking became much more powerful now. Then they went to the Western world and Zhang Han survived the ruins. Someone said that Zhang Han had been running about in the bone cave for a long time. What an awesome man he is. Actually, he is proficient not only in incantations, but also in alchemy, formation setting and so on. Phew, I finally finished. I feel that what I said today was much more than what I said in a year. The warlord of Chan clan let out a long sigh after he finished speaking. As for Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali, they looked at each other. They saw each other's expressions. Both of them were dumbfounded. Only the two of them knew what they were feeling at this point. Chapter 714, Going Up the Mountain. Did it take my son just a year to rise in the martial arts world? We have a daughter-in-law and a granddaughter. They are waiting for us to come back before getting married. Does our daughter already have a boyfriend? Who is he? We should scrutinize him well. They're living in Hong Kong now. My son bought a mountain and they are all there. It took Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali 10 minutes to digest the news, but they were still startled. Actually, they were more proud than shocked. My son is more formidable than me. He's worthy of being my son. Zhang Wenyu grinned from ear to ear. They've suffered a lot in recent years. Rong Jiali's eyes turned a little red again. Her heart ached for them. However, they did not want to waste time at this moment and were eager to see them. Rong Jiali in particular. What should we do now? After keeping silent for 10 seconds, Rong Jiali calmed down and asked, my son went to the Kungzu world, while the others are still in Hong Kong. Shall we go to the Kungzu world and Hong Kong respectively, or go to the Kungzu world first to find our son, or wait for him in Hong Kong? I suggest you go to Hong Kong, since Zhang Han was able to survive when he was searching for the lost relics. He must be safe in the world lit. I know you're worried that the Wind Snow School will threaten Zhang Han, but you should not underestimate him. Any enemy who dares to look down on him is already dead. He is more experienced than me and has a good command of many things. I will call Chinking and ask him what's going on there first, then you can make a decision. The warlord of Chan clan made a proposal. Well, let's make a phone call first. Zhang Wenyu nodded. Hearing what the warlord of Chan clan said, he felt more assured about Zhang Han's safety. He knew the warlord of Chan clan seldom praised others, so Zhang Han was obviously excellent enough that he spoke so highly of him. Zhang Wenyu did not know what he was feeling at this point. He had mixed emotions, feeling both pride and delight at the same time. He, more than ever, was looking forward to meeting Zhang Han and Zhang Li. Alas! Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali looked at the warlord of Chan clan with mixed feelings. He dialed Chen Chenking's number and asked, "Chenking, what's going on over there? Do you have any news about Zhang Han?" "Everything is well now, but Captain Xuanhuan told me that countless people came out of the world lit through 5 entrances. As we said before, the forces supporting the Li family probably intended to play dirty tricks. For instance, although Gudong Glai, Xiang Kishan and some others have connections with the world lit, they would not attract much attention. What they worry about is the Luofu Sword sect, the Wind Snow School and the Lihan sect, especially the Wind Snow School, which is indeed powerful. Brother Han killed more than a dozen of their disciples, so we're afraid that they will come over once they learn that Mount New Moon has 2 divine objects. The martial artists at the Divine Realm stage are easy to defeat, but the men at the Earth Realm stage are truly hard nuts to crack. The man from Wind Snow School, I'll ask some people to help you and you should wait patiently, just inform me if there are any updates." After he finished speaking, the warlord of Chan clan hung up because he saw Zhang Guanyu waving his hand. Zhang Han stole a holy object from Mugs, the princess of the Luofu Sword sect, as well as that of Yilong Yuan, the disciple of the Lihan sect. What's more, he defeated Shi Fengyu and killed more than a dozen disciples of the Wind Snow School. As I expected, we need to be on guard against the Wind Snow School. Now, they have no idea that Zhang Han is your son. If they learn that he is from the Heavenly Knights sect, they will feel uneasy. The warlord of Chan clan said, "We may as well go to Hong Kong first. Our son is really powerful. So we have to take good care of our daughter-in-law. Little Wu will contact us as once he comes out of the world lit. By then, I'll ask him to meet Zhang Han to make arrangements." Rong Jiali said while looking at Zhang Wenyu. "Well, without further ado, you should leave now. Let's go to Hong Kong first and wait for little Wu, then we can ask someone to contact Uncle Dong. With him, we will all definitely be safe." Zhang Wenyu nodded. "I'll ask someone to book the first available flight for you." The warlord of Chan clan said, "Okay, thank you, Senior Chen." Zhang Guanyu cupped his hands in obeisance. Now he did not plan to ask Zhang Nan for help. If Zhang Nan had taken good care of Zhang Han and Zhang Li as always, he would have treated them well after my return, even if he was under great pressure. Now, he figured that Zhang Han did the right thing. Everyone had his own way to go. Zhang Wenyu had brought great honor and considerate assets to the Zhang clan while living with them, so he did not feel he owed them anything. Moreover, he was angry at this time. His son had been down and out for more than 5 years. Who would pay for that? Alas, it's all my fault. Zhang Wenyu sighed in his mind. He just wanted to be with Zhang Han and his family in the future. The 3 of them stood up and Rong Jiali put on her white bamboo hat again. "Let's go back to the Chen clan first. The flights should have been booked, so we can go there by bus." The warlord of Chan clan took the lead in flying out after saying that. Although such omnipotent martial artists were like immortals who conquered the sky and sea, they consumed a lot of spiritual force while flying. Their spiritual force would be exhausted if they flew from Shangjing to Hong Kong. When they were about to set out, the warlord of Chan clan finalized all arrangements with just one phone call. After arriving at the Chen clan, the three of them directly got into a stretch Bentley. "Do you have any news about Jiang Shenwang?" the warlord of Chan clan asked. "Not yet." Zhang Guangyu raised his eyebrows slightly and sighed. "My father cultivates in seclusion from time to time in recent decades. He fought against the head of the Wind Snow School more than a decade ago and I lost track of him after that. Later, I chatted with Senior Yuan and he said they might have accidentally entered into the Kunlun immortal world. It's easy to access that place, but it is hard to get out. How's your relationship with the Wind Snow School now?" the warlord of Chan clan asked again. At this point, Zhang Wangyu had a proud expression on his face as he said, "The other four worldlets are still in the same state, but the Kungzu world and the Wind Snow School have now become influential forces. The Heavenly Knights sect is worthy of its name, which is so awesome." The warlord of Chan clan said with emotion, "I remember that more than 10 years ago, in addition to your father, it cultivated 8 masters at the Heaven Realm stage. I wonder. The Heavenly Knights sect cultivated nearly 20 experts at the Heaven Realm stage 50 years ago. Since such battles were too exhausting, the number of Heaven Realm experts had decreased even though some of them made breakthroughs. There were 6 Heaven Realm masters left." Zhang Guangyu was silent for 2 seconds before he said, 5 of the 6 masters who were at such a stage from the Wind Snow School are in the Kungzu world, so there's only 1 left in the outside world." The warlord of Chan clan's face changed when he heard Zhang Guangyu's words. Those masters at the Heaven Realm stage had been dead for so many years, considering that 2 experts from the Heavenly Knights sect and 4 from the Wind Snow School were dead. The other 4 worldlets, especially the southwestern main sect of the Wind Snow School, did not offer any support. In fact, the branch of the Kungzu world was no match for the Heavenly Knights sect at all. This is the war. The warlord of Chan clan sighed with emotion. "Let's stop talking about this topic. I'll call old Gai first." Zhang Wangyu took out an old-fashioned mobile phone from his pocket. With the rapid development of the electronics industry, Zhang Wengyu's phone was an outdated model as he had it for more than 5 years. Fortunately, it was still serviceable, so he dialed Gai Xingkong's number. "Guangyu, are you out?" A surprised voice sounded. "I am back. Can I meet you in Hong Kong?" "Great, ha ha ha, you seem to know all about your kids, don't you?" "Yes, Senior Chen told me in detail." Well, I'll set off after making the arrangements. Let's have dinner tonight." "Okay." After chatting for a few minutes, he hung up. Then, the warlord of Chan clan continued to talk with the 2 of them. Rong Jiali did not talk much, so she sat quietly aside. About 1.5 hours later, they reached the international airport. Seeing the warlord of Chan clan waving them off, Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali got on the private plane specially arranged by the Chen clan. After learning that Zhang Guangyu was back, Gai Xingkong summoned the superiors of the Gai clan in a hurry and reminded them of some matters that required their attention. Since the Gai clan had nothing to do with the world lit and were not in a feud with others given its relatively upright style, he was assured. Moreover, now that the world lit appeared, the National Security Agency would send some stronger people to Ice City, who could assist them in the face of special situations. At the same time, Chen Chengqing was sitting in the pavilion a little distance away from the Thunder Yang tree on Mount New Moon in Hong Kong, while Zhao Feng, Instructor Liu and Wang Ming were standing beside him. They were not in high spirits at this moment because they received a piece of disturbing news from Captain Xuanhuan. Yao Feng and his men are going to launch an attack after learning that some disciples of the Wind Snow School were killed by Zhang Han Yang. He is obviously interested in the divine objects on the mountain. 2 kinds of divine objects, together with some holy objects, will definitely attract many people's attention. Wang Zanping said slowly, in their view, the people on the mountain are still too weak and lack the ability to protect the treasures. We'll be in the wrong even if we are robbed. This matter is indeed of great importance. Even so, how can we just give away the treasures? Martial artists should not be cowards. If they dare to attack us, we must shoot them to death. Instructor Liu said coldly. It's not that simple. Wang Zanping frowned slightly. I heard Captain Xuanhuan say that Yao Feng, as the supervisor of the Wind Snow School, is overbearing and even bullied Shi Fengwu before. King Zhenzi, his master, together with the powerful Wind Snow School, stand a good chance of exerting pressure on the government. However, it is not right for them to intervene in the internal battle in the martial arts world. Forget it. But Master Wang is right. My uncle said that it will take at least 3 days for such a large number of soldiers to evacuate. As is known to all, we'll get into trouble if the enemy comes aggressively 3 days later. Instructor Liu responded with a smile. 3 days are enough. Chen Chengqing shook his head slightly. Don't think too much about it. It will happen if it is doomed to happen. My grandfather said our reinforcements are on the way. I'm somewhat curious about who will be coming over. Let's wait and see first. If the enemy dares to take action, my soul-gathering flag can exert its strength, which will help defeat the man at the Divine Realm early stage easily. Wang Zanping's eyes were filled with conviction. Now that they did not have anything else to do, they just sat there drinking tea and chatting. As for Meng Meng, she was feeling a little emotionally unstable because of the absence of her papa. The little girl would have been delighted if Zhang Han was home, but now, until dusk, she was only slightly happy, going to the back hill to play with Ziyan, Zif, Rong Jiaxin, Zhang Li and Wang Ya. After arriving at the back hill, Zif and Chen Chengqing sat aside, whispering to each other, while Ziyan, Dai, Little Hai and Tiny Tot played with Meng Meng. Puff. Suddenly, a gust of breeze that was slightly colder than the surrounding air, blew across the mountain. Hiss. Chen Chengqing froze all of a sudden, his hair standing on end and stared at the area near Mount New Moon. Huh? 5 seconds later, he frowned and had a puzzled expression on his face. He seemed to have felt something, but this feeling dissipated soon. Did it come from the Thunder Yang tree? He was uncertain, but he was instantly on the alert. The others present, however, did not feel the breeze at all. Actually, they did not know there were 2 hidden figures hovering over the mountain gate. Well, great. The scenery here is beautiful. Lilai is over there. She's grown up and become really beautiful. My sister, who looks the same as before, is over there. She's also a grandmaster now. Rong Jiali's eyes turned red and she sobbed even as she observed what she saw in a pleasant tone. I'm so proud of my son. Zhang Wengyu sighed with mixed feelings. Then, they fixed their eyes on the little girl, who was frolicking at this point. She's our granddaughter, isn't she? What a delicate girl. The lady beside her is Ziyan and she looks prettier than her photos. Ouch, we're grandparents. Zhang Wengyu's expression could not be read, but he was somewhat surprised, amazed and happy. Let's go, hurry up, I want to talk to them and hug Lilai. Rong Jiali said eagerly. She did not mention Ziyan and Meng Meng. She did not know what kind of people they were since they had never met them before. She, therefore, planned to get to know them first. Let's go. Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali quickly landed beside the forest on the side of the front hill. Showing up as the light curtain that had cloaked their appearance dissipated, they walked on the road nearby and caught sight of the gate of Mount New Moon. That man at the God Realm medium stage should be Senior Chen's grandson, whose appearance has changed after all these years. Zhang Guanyu shook his head repeatedly and said in surprise, the surroundings are well protected. I did not expect that there were troops guarding the area and we were discovered even before we approached. Modern technology cannot be underestimated. It seems that our son is leading a better life than we thought, ha ha. He was aware that he had been sighted by a lot of weapons once they got close. Although they had never seen these high-tech products before, they were allowed to pass as soon as they appeared. Obviously, it was the warlord of Chan clan who had made the preparations before. You look really glad. Rong Jiali walked at a fast pace, which showed that she was anxious. Let's go up the mountain. There are more than 30 Wu Dao grandmasters here, many of whom have just broken through. Apart from them, There are more than 70 heaven stage masters. Judging from their auras, they're about to break through. It's indeed beyond my imagination. Zhang Wenyu did not expect that the situation was much more complicated than he thought. When they approached the gate, Zhang Wenyu and Rong Jiali raised their heads slightly. Looking at the giant stone gate with the inscription of 3 marvelous words, they could not help murmuring, "Cold Mortal School." However, 2 members of the security group on both sides of the gate intercepted them. "Who are you?" The man with a flat-top haircut on the left stepped forward with a cold look, standing 5 meters away from them and frowning slightly. Nowadays, the people who went up the mountain were the members of the restaurant and they knew all of them. Strangers were seldom seen at ordinary times, let alone at such a critical moment. Therefore, both of them were a little vigilant and did not approach Zhang Wenyu and Rong Jiali, keeping a proper distance in order to respond to exceptional circumstances at any time. After all, one of the 2 strangers, who was wearing a bamboo hat, was a woman, as could be seen by the outline of her figure. Who were they? The 2 of them were curious, but they almost bit their tongues after hearing the man's answer. "We're Zhang Han's parents." Puff. "What did you say?" The man with a flat-top haircut felt dizzy all of a sudden, but he stayed alert and asked doubtfully, "You say you're my boss's parents, how can you prove it? What's more," the man with a flat-top haircut took on a cold look, "you shouldn't play a trick on our boss. I hope you are aware that you'll definitely pay a heavy price if you make fun of him. I'm not joking, he's indeed my son." Zhang Wenyu was in a good mood. After saying that, he released some of his auras. The 2 guards felt a strong constriction in an instant. They were so shocked that they could not help but take a few steps back. He must be at the Divine Realm stage or above. "Excuse me." The man with a flat-top haircut bowed to him, "Please wait a minute and we'll inform our superiors. Moreover, our boss is not on the mountain at this time. Let's go up first." Zhang Wenyu was not willing to wait at the place, so he held Rong Jiali's hand and walked toward the gate. The man with the flat-top haircut glanced at the other man and gave up trying to stop them. Instead, he just kept pace with them, took out his mobile phone and dialed Chen King's number immediately. "Brother King, there's an issue at the gate of the front hill. 2 experts are on the mountain and they claim that they are the boss's parents." Beep. The phone call ended. On the other end of the phone line, Chen King looked at Zif and said in a hurry, "I have something urgent to confirm." After glancing at Meng, who was playing with Dai, he turned into a stream of light and flew quickly to the front hill. Seeing that, Wang Zanping and the others could not help but stand up. Why is he in such a hurry? As for Zhang Wenyu and Rong Jiali, they rambled on the front hill, admiring the buildings on both sides. "The building over there is very similar to my sister and Wang Ming's house. I guess my son lives in the castle ahead. It looks so magnificent. The buildings here are well constructed. The spiritual chi in the air is almost as good as that in the world lit." Zhang Wenyu shook his head slightly after sensing the aura around. It seemed that his son had encountered valuable opportunities. What the 2 of them said gave the man with a flat-top haircut and the other long-haired man behind them more cause to trust them. Otherwise, who would stroll up the mountain? Furthermore, the landscape on the left was similar to that of the Wang family, but ordinary people would not know about that. They did not dare to say anything at this moment for fear that they might say something wrong. Soon, half a minute later, a figure approached quickly. At this time, they let out a long sigh of relief. With Emperor King around, they did not need to worry about anything. However, they were still a little shocked by what happened the next moment. Swish. Shan King got close to them in the blink of an eye. "Uncle Zhang, Auntie Rong." A surprised voice rang out from Chen King's mouth. "Here you are, Chen King, you look more handsome than before." Zhang Wenyu sized him up carefully and nodded with a smile. He was acquainted with his son's buddy. "Ha, Brother Han is the most handsome man now. By the way, Ziyan, my sister-in-law, is very beautiful. Meng is also really cute. I'll take you over." Shan King smiled and pondered for a while. Then he took out his mobile phone rapidly and sent a message to Zif. Brother Han's parents are back, they're on the front hill and coming to you. Boom. Zif checked the message for the first time and rubbed her eyes hard. Her face went blank and she was totally stunned. Ah! She suddenly screamed and looked around at the crowd, saying, My brother-in-law's parents are back, Zhang Li, your parents are back, they're on the front hill and walking over to you, sister-in-law, brother-in-law's parents are back. Buzz. Everyone's expressions changed in an instant. They felt more amazed than delighted since this news came so suddenly. Xian felt the same way too. Chapter 715, Reuniting. They're back. Xian was somewhat stunned and at a loss, so she asked subconsciously, did they come back with my husband? She was vaguely aware that Zhang Han would definitely inform her if he came back with his parents so that she would be prepared, at least mentally prepared. The news was too sudden. After pondering for a while, she figured that they could not have returned together. I have no idea, I need to ask Chinking. Zif sent a message to Chen Chinking in a hurry and eventually received a response. No, they are by themselves. Gulp. Xian felt her ears buzzing so much that even the sound of her swallowing was magnified. She was so nervous. What should she do? At this moment, Rong Jiaxin and Zhang Li were also greatly surprised. Are my parents back? Really? Really? My parents are back, woo, Mum and Dad. Zhang Li went out of control when she received the sudden news. She ran quickly to the front mountain, weeping along the way. They are back, let's go and have a look. Wang Zanping, Wang Ming and some of the others also walked over rapidly. Rong Jiaxin was overwhelmed by amazement, but she kept calm. Seeing Xian looking so anxious, she smiled, approached Xian, held her right hand and said, Yan, your parents-in-law are here at this time and it's high time you met each other. After that, you and Han can choose a day to get married. Take it easy, my sister and brother-in-law are very good-natured. Let's go. Meng, come here, your grandparents are coming, come quickly. When she heard Rong Jiaxin's gentle voice, Xian became less nervous and looked up and saw Meng running to her. Mama, Grandpa and Grandma are back. Is Papa also back? Let's take a look first. Xian led the way, holding Meng's little hand. They walked along the familiar roads, past the familiar Thunder Yang tree. When they got close to the destination, Xian's body stiffened a little. Dong, dong. She could feel her own heartbeat. How anxious she was. The closer they got, the more nervous she became. Aunt, am I dressed formally enough? I am not even wearing any makeup. How about I go and put on some makeup and change my clothes first? It's okay, Yan, you look so beautiful now, you don't need to do that. Rong Jiaxin knew that she was nervous because Xian's palms were covered with sweat. She remembered that she was just as anxious when she came to see her parents-in-law for the first time. As one who was experienced, she comforted her with a smile. My sister and brother-in-law will definitely like you and Meng. The only thing you need to do is to be assured. I want an excellent daughter-in-law like you, but I don't have a son. Later, I'll introduce them to you. You just stand next to me. Okay, I see, thank you, Aunt. Xian nodded gently. So, the two of them, Meng and Zif, walked together, followed by Dai, Little Hai and Tiny Tot. Whoa. Did you hear that? It seems that our host's parents have come over. We'd better wise up. Ooh. COO. The two of them echoed Dai, who was considered the eldest brother among the spiritual beasts on Mount New Moon now. If people from the outside world saw them and were aware of Tiny Tot's background, they would have exclaimed, "You're indeed an ancient demonic beast." When Xian and her companions walked under the Thunder Yang tree, they caught sight of a large group of people surrounding the castle 50 meters away. Zhang Li and a woman with a bamboo hat were crying as they hugged each other, while the man gently patted them on their shoulders to comfort them. Are they my husband's parents? Xian was stunned for a moment, but she did not show her true feelings. Her mind went blank as a series of emotions went through her, but after seeing them, she became less nervous. Let's go over. Rong Jiaxin also smiled when she saw them, although she had a delighted expression, her eyes were filled with tears. Family reunions were always happy and moving occasions. Well, Xian pursed her lips and looked at her blue and white sportswear. She did not think it was suitable, but she had no choice. Even Meng Meng seemed to sense her anxiety, as she was very quiet at this point. Her big bright eyes blinked and sized the two strangers up with curiosity. The three of them came nearer to them. Meng Meng felt as if she was encircled by a dignified atmosphere. "Ma." The little girl said in a low voice. She patted Xian's leg with her small hand and asked discreetly, "Why is Auntie Lilai crying? Did she make a mistake and get punished?" No, she's just happy, crying with joy." Xian also replied in a low voice, but most of the people present heard what she said clearly since they were martial artists. Zhang Guanyu looked over, he stared at Xian for a few seconds and finally fixed his eyes on Meng Meng. In fact, he was not even aware that the corners of his mouth were slightly raised. "Sister." Rong Jiaxin wiped her tears and brought Xian to the front. At this moment, Wang Zanping and the others quickly made way for them. "Long time no see, I'm going to introduce these two people beside me formally. Mom, this is my sister-in-law and this is my niece. My brother is married, they're very nice and my sister-in-law is very kind to all of us." Zhang Li interrupted Rong Jiaxin, but she stopped weeping when she saw Meng Meng. She introduced her with tears at the corners of her eyes. "Meng Meng is also obedient. My brother said that he would not hold a wedding until you came back. Nice to meet you, Uncle Zhang and Auntie Rong. I'm Xian, I'm Zhang Han's wife." Xian called them uncle and aunt since she was certainly too embarrassed to address them as mum and dad the first time they met each other. Great. Rong Jiali quickly took off the white gauze bamboo hat and put it in Zhang Wengyu's hand. Everyone saw Rong Jiali's appearance. She was about 1.68 meters tall, shorter than Xian, with long hair down to her shoulders and long black eyebrows. Her eyes were not that big, but the gentle expression in them left an impression on others. "She's so beautiful and tall, it's Han's fortune to marry you." Rong Jiali held Xian's hands and sized her up with a smile. Apart from anything else, she was extremely satisfied with Xian. She was an outstandingly beautiful lady. "Meng Meng, you're so cute and good-looking. Do you know who we are?" Then Rong Jiali hunkered down, staring at Meng Meng. Meng Meng was stunned. If it were in the past, she would have hidden behind Xian shyly. However, she was not afraid of strangers after living with Zhang Han for a long time. She, at this point, blinked and said, "You're grand." Did she want to say grandma and grandpa? Wait. But before she finished her sentence, Zhang Wenyu stretched out his hand to interrupt her all of a sudden. Meng Meng froze and Xian's heart also skipped a beat. She wondered if they were willing to accept Meng Meng and her. Xian had heard a lot of stories about how not all the parents-in-law were easy to get along with. Even the others looked at Zhang Guanyu in confusion, especially those who were familiar with him, including Rong Jiaxin, Wang Ming, Wang Zanping and Chen Chengqing. They did not understand why Zhang Wenyu interrupted a kid, though he appeared somewhat benevolent at this time. But the next moment, they were suddenly enlightened and burst out laughing. "Wait a minute, it's the first time for us to meet each other and I will give you a gift before you address us as grandpa and grandma. I need to select an excellent present." Zhang Wenyu murmured, turning to take out several gifts from his space ring and choosing the best. As he turned around, there was a small necklace in his hand. The necklace, without a pendant, was made of silver. It was not very beautiful, but Wang Zanping and Chen Chengqing were touched. It was a defensive divine weapon. He was worthy of the young master of the Heavenly Knights sect. How generous he was! Under everyone's gazes, Zhang Wenyu squatted and looked at Meng Meng with a smile. "You're Zhang Yumeng, right?" "Yes, I'm Meng Meng. Meng Meng replied. Your father is Zhang Han. Yes, my papa is indeed formidable. I'm your father's father. You're my grandpa and grandma. That's right. Today is the first time we are meeting each other and grandpa wants to give you a first meeting gift, that is, the necklace. Let me put it on for you. Zhang Wangyu gave a heartfelt smile because of the family affection. After all, blood was thicker than water. However, they were not familiar with each other. Although affection needed time to cultivate, their physical relationship helped promote it. Besides, Meng Meng was so cute that she won the hearts of Zhang Wangyu and Rong Jiali instantly. Thank you, Grandpa. Meng Meng thanked Zhang Wangyu obediently and asked him to put on the necklace. Meng Meng saw Zhang Wangyu standing up and muttered to herself after finding that there was no pendant hanging on it. Well, the one Papa gave is prettier than this one. The little girl knew how to identify beautiful objects. When Zhang Wangyu heard what she said, his mouth quivered slightly. He was not bothered by it, for children said what they liked. Therefore, he turned to look at Rong Jiali and said with a smile, our daughter-in-law's gift should come from you. Generally speaking, people would politely refuse the present given repeatedly and finally accept it, but Xian did not do so and only moved her lips. In the end, she did not say anything, acting like an obedient wife as she stood and watched. This was her parents-in-law's gift for her at their first meeting. I must give an excellent gift to my daughter-in-law as well. As Rong Jiali smiled and reached out her right hand, a crystal bracelet appeared in her hand. Come on, you can change how you address us after receiving the gift at the wedding ceremony. You can call me Auntie first, and this is your gift. I'm really helpless since we came back so late. I hope you don't mind. Anyway, we all believe in Han and the others speak highly of you. I just sized you up. You are not only beautiful, but also have a lovely voice. Han did find a good daughter-in-law for us. Rong Jiali said as she put the crystal bracelet on Xian. It was crystal white in color and glittered in the light. What a pretty bracelet. It completely dazzled Wang Zanping and the others present. It was definitely very pretty and it was a divine weapon as well. What a rich lady she was. Ha ha ha. Instructor Liu giggled aside. Seeing what he did, Wang Zanping was stunned. Ahem, ahem. He coughed softly, took out the small soul-gathering flag with his left hand and waved it. After showing Zhang Wangyu the flag, he took it back. I own a divine weapon as well, which was given by your son. Of course, he would not tell them at this point. They should spend time with their daughter-in-law first. Thank you, Auntie Rong. Thank you, Uncle Zhang. Xian nodded with a smile and glanced at Meng Meng after she finished speaking. Without Xian's prompting, Meng Meng pouted and said, thank you, Grandpa Zhang, thank you, Grandma Rong. Huh? Zhang Wangyu froze? It sounded as if she was addressing an outsider as she added the family name in front of the status of a generation. She had called them Grandpa and Grandma just now. Meng Meng, you should call them Grandpa and Grandma rather than Grandpa Zhang and Grandma Rong. Zhang Li burst into laughter all of a sudden. Overwhelming happiness replaced tears of joy at this time. Oh, thank you, Grandpa and Grandma. Well. Zhang Guanyu laughed and touched Meng Meng's head, but when he saw Rong Jiali's face turning pale, he quickly handed her the bamboo hat and said, put it on first. Well, Rong Jiali put on her bamboo hat so that no one could see her face clearly. Mom, why are you wearing this hat? Zhang Li asked. Your mother is a little sick now, so she needs to wear it. She will be much better after a period of time. Zhang Guanyu responded. Are you all right? Zhang Li asked in a hurry. I'm fine. Rong Jiali smiled. Auntie, I'll ask Zhang Han to check on you after he returns. He's so competent that he can easily heal you. Xian blinked and came over to hold Rong Jiali's arm. Let's go inside first and talk while sitting. How did you come here? Did you take a plane? Yes, it's Senior Chen who arranged the plane for us. Rong Jiali and Xian began to chat in low voices as she led them to the castle. At this point, Zhang Guanyu waved to Meng Meng. "Come here, granddaughter, let grandpa hug you." "Huh? Well." Meng Meng thought for a while and said, "No, Papa said that other men can't hug me." After saying that, the little girl looked up at Zhang Guanyu, who was tall and strong. Then she turned her head and ran to Dai behind her, stretching out her small arms. "Big hi. Woo, woo, woo." Dai picked Meng Meng up immediately and put her on its shoulder. It looked down at Zhang Guanyu with complacency in its eyes. "HMPH, I'm the little host's ride." Dai snorted and turned its head to follow Xian to the castle, while Little Hai and Tiny Tot kept pace with them slowly. Zhang Guanyu's forehead darkened. He glanced at Wang Zanping, Wang Ming and Rong Jiaxin and could not help saying, "Ha ha, we haven't seen each other for a few years. Zhang Han should be grown up by now. After he comes back, I'll ask him how he teaches his daughter and why he doesn't even allow Grandpa to hug her." "Ha ha ha." Rong Jiaxin burst out laughing and said, "Brother-in-law, don't take your undeserved gain for granted. If you are disinclined to accept Meng Meng, I can treat her as my granddaughter. You just came back and you'll know that Zhang Han made the correct choice. Xian is a good daughter-in-law and Meng Meng is also very well behaved, which would make other people envious." "Ha." Zhang Guanyu smiled and said, "All right, let's go into the castle first." How could he be dissatisfied? He just felt a little guilty as he looked at his granddaughter, who was so distant with him. Grandpa and Grandma could have been part of her childhood. They had wasted too much time over the past few years. The reality of the situation made him feel so helpless. Han went to the worldlet. "Didn't you meet him?" Wang Ming could not help asking. "That's right." Wang Zanhong said, "They've mentioned several times that he would go to the worldlet to pick you up and he departed for that space when the gate opened." Hearing the question, Zhang Guanyu shook his head slightly and said, "We might have missed each other, but Senior Chen told me that Zhang Han is very formidable now, so he should be safe. Besides, since a group of disciples from the Heavenly Knights sect will be coming over tomorrow, I'll inform them at that time. I heard that Han incurred the hatred of many people, so we plan to help him protect this place. Let's draw up a plan depending on the circumstances. Now that the worldlet is open, the world will be chaotic for a period of time." "That's right. Judging from Brother Han's strength, he can come and go in the worldlet freely." Shen Qingqing said in a certain tone. "Oh, you do speak highly of your brother Han." Zhang Guanyu said with a smile after glancing at him. "Actually, all the people, including Qingqing, respect Han." Wang Zanping said while chuckling, "Guanyu, it's a great honor for you to have such a talented son. The object that I showed you just now was given by him. It was refined from a holy object into a divine one. You're right, he also gave us the 100 formation image, which seems very mysterious. The formations recorded are as strong as those set by the earliest ancestors." Wang Ming added, "From the time I arrived at the mountain, I've only seen the furnace exploding once. He almost succeeded in refining medicinal pellets every time. What an incredible man he is." Wang Zanzong said with a smile. His incantation. These people began to air their praises in a realistic way. Although Zhang Guanyu had heard about such deeds before, he still listened with a smile, feeling it was not enough and wanted to listen to more. They did not stop praising him until they got close to the door. Zhang Guanyu also shook his head and said, "I did not expect him to change so much. I can proudly tell others that Zhang Han is my son in the future. Of course, my daughter-in-law and granddaughter are big surprises. Meng Meng is almost 5 years old, but we just returned. I hope we can be with her and our family often in the future. Oh, by the way," Zhang Li, who had just entered the room, heard what they said, turned around to run over and whispered, "Dad, my brother and sister-in-law decided that Meng Meng should not be involved with the martial arts world now. Don't talk casually in front of Meng Meng." "Fine, I got it." Zhang Guanyu nodded. He did not intend to talk about the martial arts world but only wanted to chat with his family, for it was indeed a precious opportunity for them to reunite. This castle is very magnificent. Zhang Wenyu nodded with praise after entering the room and looking at the delicate carvings. I'll show you something more magnificent on the mountain later. Wang Zanping said, smiling. He was referring to the Thunder Yang tree and the Thunder Yang flower, as well as the other treasures. He believed that Zhang Wenyu, as experienced as he was, would be shocked. The sky gradually darkened at this moment as they stepped into the castle. The lobby on the first floor was large enough to hold all these people. Zhang Wenyu, Zhang Li, Rong Jiali, Xian, Meng Meng, and Rong Jiaxin were all seated in turn, while the others were sitting on the sofa next to them, accompanying them. It's past 5 o'clock. After getting to know her in-laws for a while, Xian became less nervous. She glanced at Rong Jiali and asked with a smile, Auntie Rong, Uncle Zhang, what would you like to eat? I'll ask the restaurant to start making preparations. Whatever, I'm not picky about food. Zhang Guanyu replied with a smile. Me too. Rong Jiali also nodded. Just ask Wang Long to make more food. Xian looked at Zhao Feng and said, okay, I'll go and make the arrangements now. Zhao Feng nodded, took out his mobile phone and walked out of the room. What Xian meant was that they should prepare an extremely substantial dinner. The ingredients on the mountain were all prepared by Zhang Han, which are very delicious. Uncle Zhang and Auntie Rong, you must have a try later. Xian said while chuckling. Really, is he able to do that? Zhang Wenyu smiled and said, I remember. Before he finished speaking, Meng Meng's voice rang out beside Xian. The little girl blinked her big shining eyes and said seriously, Grandpa, Grandma, this is Meng Meng's Xanadu. Papa built it especially for me. My papa is outstandingly awesome. Chapter 716, Zhang Wenyu's surprise. Ha, ha, ha. Zhang Guanyu burst out laughing while looking at Meng Meng. Zhang Han was such a powerful father in Meng Meng's eyes that she emphasized it twice in a short time. It reminded him of Zhang Han and Zhang Li's childhood. The more Zhang Guanyu looked at his granddaughter, the more he liked her. She likes following her father. Xian smiled. She will miss him when she doesn't see him for just one day. Yes, I love my papa. Meng Meng pouted again. Mama, why hasn't papa come back? My grandparents are both here. Well, Xian did not know how to answer Meng Meng, so she kept saying, he will be back soon. Yes. Rong Jiali smiled. Tomorrow I'll send someone to ask your father to come back. Okay. Tomorrow, why not today? Today. Rong Jiali pointed to the sky. It's getting dark now and we will contact your father tomorrow morning. All right, Mama, I'm going to bed. Will I see Papa when I wake up? Meng Meng asked. Xian did not know how to answer her question. Meng Meng would cry again if she knew Zhang Han would not be back tomorrow morning. If he doesn't come back tomorrow, I'll ask him to pretend to be an elephant and you can ride on him when he is back. Is it okay? Xian replied. Humphrey Meng Meng snorted and began to play with her toy. She still looked unhappy. Wang Zanping and all the others were amused. Meng Meng is unhappy whenever Zhang Han is not with her. They recalled when they could not calm the little princess down the last time she lost her temper. Finally, Meng Meng quietened down after Xian got sick. It will be a problem for Han every time he is out for an exploration. Wang Zanping shook his head slightly. Martial artists should be ambitious and aggressive. Zhang Han was still young and he was expected to fight for all the available opportunities. However, Wang Zanping felt that had it not been for him accompanying his daughter and waiting for his father, Zhang Han would have gone into seclusion. It's difficult to have both worlds. Wang Zanping sighed with emotion. He envied Zhang Han because he had given up a lot in order to cultivate when he was young. Mom, what's wrong with you? Why do you have to wear this in the house? Zhang Li was worried. Nothing serious. Rong Jiali comforted her. I will just wear it for a short while and I can take it off for brief periods every day. A short while meant that time was brief. Why? Rong Jiaxin turned her gaze at Zhang Guanyu in confusion. How can this happen to her in Heavenly Knight's sect? Alas. Zhang Wenyu sighed and shook his head. I'll tell you later. Don't worry, I'm fine since your father is here. Rong Jiali smiled and then turned her gaze at Xian. Yan, Elder Chen said your family are in Singapore? Yes. Xian nodded gently. We are Chinese immigrants who moved to Singapore a few decades ago. I was born in Singapore and grew up there, and my parents often brought me back to China and taught me how to speak Chinese. Later, I came to Hong Kong to develop my career. How did you and Han get to know each other? Rong Jiali asked curiously. We. Xian hesitated for a moment and then replied, we met in Shangjing. Knowing that elder sister Yan was feeling nervous, Zif helped her to reply, Aunt, we went to Shangjing to work on a collaboration with a company 5 years ago and my sister met my brother-in-law there. I see. Yan, you are 26 years old, right? Rong Jiali asked. It was the first time she saw Xian and she wanted to get to know her daughter-in-law better. While chatting with Wang Zanping in a low voice, Zhang Guanyu kept an ear out on his wife's communication with Xian. Yes, I'm 26, 1 year younger than Zhang Han. You met him when you were only 21 years old. It must be very hard for you to compete in the entertainment industry alone. Meng Meng is more than 4 years old, so, you had a baby soon after you met him? Rong Jiali was gently probing as she wanted to find out more. Xian was hesitant about answering this question. The art of language is profound and she was thinking about how to give Rong Jiali a satisfying answer that would explain the situation well. Seeing this, Zif thought elder sister Yan was too shy to answer Rong Jiali's direct question. She had a baby soon after meeting Zhang Han? My elder sister Yan is not such a promiscuous person. Zif took over the conversation and told the truth. For social interaction, Sister Yan drank a little red wine. However, Fei. Xian tried to stop Zif with her eyes. It doesn't matter, you can't always keep it a secret. Zif waved and tried to calm Xian down. Knowing she could do nothing to stop Zif, Xian began to listen nervously to what she was narrating. At that time, there was a boss who was attracted to Sister Yan and put something in her drink. Fortunately, she was saved by my brother-in-law. I don't know the specific situation, but your son was so good that Sister Yan soon found herself pregnant. She was competing for the Best Actress award in the entertainment industry at that time, so I suggested that she get an abortion. Sister Yan did not agree because she had only one chance to have a baby. Therefore, we left the entertainment industry in October to live in seclusion in North America for more than 4 years. Sister Yan gave birth to Meng Meng there and raised her alone. When Meng Meng was 4 years old, Sister Yan came back to find Zhang Han for Meng Meng's sake. At that time, he lived in a dilapidated apartment and we gave him a chance to be alone with Meng Meng for a few days. After that, we could not get rid of him. Zif became more and more excited and told everything to Rong Jiali in one breath. Life looked good now, but she and Sister Yan had borne all the burden when they were suffering abroad. Boom. Everyone present seemed to be struck by lightning. Everyone became silent. Hearing her name mentioned, Meng Meng looked around in confusion, not knowing what the adults were talking about. Xian lowered her head slightly, pursed her lips and did not say anything. Now Rong Jiali and Zhang Guanyu were fully aware of Zhang Han and Xian's history. Even for Rong Jiaxin, this was the first time she heard such a complete version. The bastard. Zhang Guanyu mumbled. He thought Zhang Han took advantage of Xian and made her pregnant. This was not the case. But Zhang Guanyu and Rong Jiali did not know this. Rong Jiali lifted her hand under the hat, as if she was surreptitiously wiping away the tears from the corners of her eyes. Then she took Xian's hands and said gently, "You have suffered a lot all these years. It's not only Han's fault, but also our fault." She knew how strong Xian's will was. For a woman, it would have been a struggle to live overseas, give birth to a child and raise her alone. Xian shook her head slightly. "It's nothing. Maybe it was a little bitter at that time, but now I'm very happy. Zhang Han loves me very much and indulges me. All sufferings have their reward. Xian knew that for sure. Papa loves me, too, Meng Meng added. I'll beat him up if he dares to be unkind to you. Zhang Wenyu snorted. He was even more satisfied with his daughter-in-law after hearing her story. Anyway, they were a family. It was his son's fault, but fortunately, they were happy now. You bad guy. All of a sudden, everyone heard a childish angry voice ringing out. Meng Meng, who was staring at Zhang Wenyu unblinkingly, complained to Zhan, Mama, he's going to beat Papa. Don't let him stay here. Someone is going to beat my Papa. Angry and aggrieved, Meng Meng was about to cry. Ah? Zhang Wenyu was surprised. Her mood changes too fast. No. Xian hurried to comfort Meng Meng. Your grandpa is joking. Your papa is his son and he won't beat him. He is just joking. No, he can't do that. When she was with Zhang Han, Meng Meng seldom cried like other children. It was normal for children to have mood changes. His granddaughter's tears surprised Zhang Wenyu. Stop talking nonsense. Rong Jiali glared at him. Though Zhang Wenyu could not see her face, he could hear the anger in her tone. I'm just joking. Zhang Wenyu hurriedly stood up to comfort Meng Meng. My dear granddaughter, it is just a joke, so please don't mind it. Your grandpa will not beat your dad. Stop crying, please. Zhang Wenyu was experienced in coaxing children since he had raised Zhang Han and Zhang Li. Half a minute later, Meng Meng stopped crying. Humphrey, I don't like you. Meng Meng was still pouting unhappily. Well, I apologize. Zhang Wenyu looked at the place beside Meng Meng. Please make room for me. He sat down beside Meng Meng and coaxed her gently. Children were fickle and since the atmosphere was so cheerful, Meng Meng soon became happy. Everyone burst out laughing upon seeing Meng Meng's smile. The atmosphere, which was a little tense before, was considerably lightened by the break. Yan. Rong Jiali took Xian's hand and said kindly, Has Han visited your parents? Yes, we were engaged in Singapore. Let me see. Let's visit your parents in Singapore when it is convenient and discuss about your wedding. What do you think of it? Xian blushed at Rong Jiali's words. She pursed her lips and nodded. It's all up to you. Ha ha ha. Rong Jiali burst out laughing. Good. We've been nervously waiting for you. Rong Jiaxin smiled. I thought about playing your part and officiating at their wedding, but I'm not Han's biological mother and he refused to let me do it. I agree with him. I must be a part of his ceremony. Han did a good job and I'll give you both a special gift on that day. Rong Jiali laughed. Wang Zanping's mouth trembled. You had given them 2 divine weapons. How amazing will your special gift be? Rong Jiali stopped chatting when she thought she had found out enough about Xian, but she was still looking forward to the family gossip in the evening. Zhang Wenyu played with Meng Meng for a while and found that he liked his granddaughter even more. When the women were done with that particular topic, Zhang Wenyu glanced at Zhang Li and asked in a calm tone, Lilai, you have a boyfriend, right? What? Zhang Li frowned. No, it's a rumor. No? Zhang Wenyu stared at her. I have not agreed to be his girlfriend yet, he's still on probation. Zhang Li replied with a guilty conscience. What's his name? I'll meet him when I come back, Humphrey. Zhang Wenyu snorted. His name is Liang Hao, Uncle Zhang. He is also from Singapore. He went back a few days ago and will return to Hong Kong in a few days. Please be sure to scrutinize him thoroughly. Zif replied with a smile. She took pleasure in Liang Hao's misfortune. She got along well with Zhang Li now and they often made fun of each other. Liang Hao? Okay. Zhang Wenyu nodded. Zhang Li was a little nervous. Liang Hao, seek blessings for yourself. You'll have to pass my dad's test sooner or later. After a simple self-comforting thought, Zhang Li pondered whether she should inform Liang Hao in the evening. While they were chatting, Gai Xingkong arrived at 6 o'clock in the evening. Ha ha, Wenyu, old Gai. Zhang Wenyu stood up to give Gai Xingkong a big hug. I have not seen you for so many years, I miss you so much. Gai Xingkong laughed. Thanks to your son, I'm now like this. Gai Xingkong made a gesture indicating I'm the best. Then he said, if it was not due to my good relationship with you, I will still be waiting for a breakthrough in Heavenly Knight's sect. He is my son. Zhang Wenyu said proudly. Stop showing off. Gai Xingkong smiled and turned his gaze at Rong Jiali, feeling surprised when he saw her hat. Why is Jiali wearing the stage hat? Well, she was attacked by our enemies. Zhang Wenyu replied helplessly. Wind Snow School? Gai Xingkong raised his eyebrows slightly. He did not say anything more because Meng was present. He was familiar with Zhang Han's family and knew he could not talk about the martial arts world in front of Meng. Dinner is ready. Zhao Feng entered the room and smiled at them. Well, venerable masters, I'm Zhao Feng, Zhang Han's disciple. Zhao Feng finally got the opportunity to introduce himself. He addressed Zhang Wenyu and Rong Jiali as venerable masters because he could not think of a more suitable appellation for his master's parents. Everyone in the room was surprised at Zhao Feng. Zhang Wenyu cast several glances at him. Feng, Han's first disciple and an excellent young man, he is now in charge of managing Mount New Moon, Golden Mortal School and Han's company. Gai Xingkong introduced him with a smile. It took Han 1 year to turn all the security group members, including him, from ordinary people to higher-level martial artists. Zhang Wenyu nodded when he heard ordinary people and 1 year. My son is capable and even amazing. He was surprised at Zhang Han's achievements. Then he remembered something and said, I'm not a venerable master, just call me Uncle Zhang. Okay, Uncle Zhang. Zhao Feng nodded with a smile. Aunt Rong and Uncle Zhang, shall we have our dinner first? Ziyan stood up. Come on, let's eat and talk. Rong Jiali answered with a smile. Let's have dinner. Meng echoed. Her enthusiasm for eating had decreased with the absence of Zhang Han. The group walked to the restaurant, chatting and laughing along the way. Gai Xingkong, Zhang Li, Wang Ming, Zif and Rong Jiaxin praised the dishes that were served. Zhang Wenyu was confused and thought they were exaggerating. He had tasted so many high-quality foods, especially those in Heavenly Knight's sect. Is the food really so delicious, since you all praise it so highly? Zhang Wenyu shook his head and chuckled. Then he took a bite of the food. Yummy. Zhang Wenyu was stunned because the food was so outstanding. Does he have a divine object specially for cultivating food ingredients? He suddenly realized that Zhang Han was much more outstanding than their description and what he saw now. During the dinner, the group of women chatted together, while Zhang Wenyu and Gai Xingkong drank cups of white wine. Where are the 3 spirit beasts from? Zhang Wenyu asked in a low voice. Han raised them. Gai Xingkong replied casually. Raise? What do you mean? I told you that Zhang Han cultivated everyone here, so we all had to start from scratch, with the exception of the Wangs. Gai Xingkong sighed with emotion. He helped me make a breakthrough, improved my marksmanship and taught Chenking the new cultivation method. Both Wang Ming and Jiaxin owe their breakthroughs to him. It sounds like he has done so much. Zhang Wenyu grinned happily. Cheers. Being in a good mood, the 2 outstanding men drank 50 milliliters of white wine in one mouthful. Ah! Gai Xingkong said as he put down his cup. Your son is not only the 2nd director of National Security Agency in Hong Kong, but also a general, otherwise, he would not have sent the army here. Huh? Zhang Wenyu narrowed his eyes slightly in astonishment. It's incredible. There were martial artists in the army, but not all of them could become generals. He must have contributed a lot to the government. Zhang Wenyu guessed right. Gai Xingkong explained. I will not list all his countless contributions. There is no one as talented as Han in cultivating martial artists. He trained many chi strength masters for Wolf Head detachment. They may all be at heaven stage now and are more powerful than those who cultivated by themselves. Therefore, there will soon be a new team of martial arts grandmasters in the army. What is more interesting is that a former officer of Wolf Head Detachment is now in the security group. He is Instructor Liu. Hello, Uncle Zhang. Instructor Liu smiled and nodded at Zhang Guangyu. Nice to meet you. Zhang Guangyu replied with a smile. The more he found out about his son, the more surprised he was. After dinner, they took a walk to the back mountain. Rongjiali was still chatting with Xian and the other ladies, and their relationship grew rapidly closer. Meng Meng and Dai were playing in the pet area. Is this tree a divine object? I did not sense its chi clearly before. Zhang Guangyu asked. That is normal. Even divine realm masters can't see through Han's array. Wang Zanping burst out laughing. Then he walked to one side of the furnace and picked up a small stone. Clatter. In front of them, the air vibrated like rippling water, which soon dissipated. The ancient and majestic chi of the Thunder Yang tree gushed forth. The medicine field not far from the left also changed. Thunder Yang flower, Yuan King tree and all the other treasures showed their original appearances. Hiss. Zhang Guangyu gasped in fear. 3 divine objects? 3? Wang Zanping was confused. I see only 2 of them. No. Zhang Guangyu shook his head slightly and turned to look at the Thunder Yang tree. He sensed that the Thunder Yang tree was a top-level divine object and 5th stage spirit treasure, which was rarely seen, but it was not the tree that attracted his attention. On the top of the Thunder Yang tree, the luminous Thunder Yang wood was sending out waves of strong fluctuations. That is a top-level divine object too. If it is true, it should be the legendary Thunder Yang wood. Zhang Guangyu was shocked. Chapter 717, Formidable Enemies. Thunder Yang wood? Wang Zanping was surprised. Guangyu, you are so knowledgeable. I've never heard about Thunder Yang wood and Thunder Yang tree before. Gaik Sinkong nodded. I sensed the Thunder Yang tree's supreme chi when I first saw it. I've seen many divine objects, but none of them is better than the Thunder Yang tree. Yes, my master said that it was the Thunder Yang tree that improved the taste of the food ingredients in his territory. It was not so powerful before, until master got the Thunder Yang flower. The lawn, the pond, the fish pond and the medicine field over there are all treasures. Thunder Yang tree and Thunder Yang flower, he has both of them. Zhang Guangyu was too shocked to make a comment. Looking to the left and right, he asked. Did Han get them within 1 year? Well. Zhao Feng hesitated for a while and decided to tell the truth. I have witnessed the development of Mount New Moon, though it was incredible. It took him less than 11 months to get all these treasures. He did not tell Zhang Guangyu that his master was a cultivator. It was better for Zhang Han to tell him about this kind of private secret personally. Even Xian thought so. Xian knew more about Zhang Han than Zhao Feng, including the fact that her husband was a reborn immortal. Though Zhang Han insisted that he was not a real immortal yet, Xian liked to address him in that way. Therefore, Xian decided to keep Zhang Han's background a secret until he told Zhang Guangyu himself. It was a chance for him to surprise his parents in person. 10 months. Zhang Guangyu was again surprised and took several steps forward. After looking around Mount New Moon, he looked again at the Thunder Yang tree. I've learned a lot from my father, including the function of the Thunder Yang tree. It is a profound spirit treasure that can produce Thunder Yang wood. According to his father, Thunder Yang wood was an even more powerful tool, which could help ordinary martial artists advance to innateness stage directly, but he did not know how to use it and what kind of martial artists it could be used on. What he was clear about was that it was a truly priceless treasure. Another story he knew was about Thunder Yang Treasure Land. When all the 5 Thunder Yang spirit treasures were gathered together, the Thunder Yang tree would advance to the 6th level and turn the whole area into a fairyland of treasures. He had never expected his son to be such a powerful martial artist with so many treasures, especially the priceless Thunder Yang tree and the Thunder Yang flower. No wonder those high-level martial artists in the West had formed an alliance to rob him. All the forces in the world would envy his son. Zhang Guangyi would have choked on his spit if he knew that Zhang Han had the Thunder Yang grass too. The third item among the Thunder Yang treasures, Zhang Han was just waiting for the right time to plant it. Alas! Zhang Guangyi sighed with emotion. He had mixed feelings about Zhang Han's achievement. Though he was happy with Han's strength, he felt guilty at the same time, since Han must have suffered a lot in order to become such a powerful martial artist. Opportunities always came with risks, and the better the opportunity was, the higher the risk must be. Zhang Guangyi felt guilty about Zhang Han's experience and was determined to be a good father from now on. Shaking his head slightly, he touched the Thunder Yang tree with his right hand, feeling its chi with his spiritual force and soul sense. Clatter. Suddenly, he felt a strong rebound force. Fortunately, the chi seemed to sense the blood relationship between Zhang Han and himself, and those energies slowly subsided after a few seconds of agitation. Huh? The energy of the Thunder Yang tree. It is very suitable for the transformation of territory, making the tree an excellent object for creating a treasure land. Wait, what is under the mountain range? A crystal mine? Question mark. Hiss. All of a sudden, Zhang Guangyi gasped in astonishment. Although there were not that many reserves in its storage, it was a mind-boggling thought that one actually owned a private crystal stone mine. While it took the Thunder Yang tree a long time to thoroughly transform the territory into a treasure land, crystal stones were useful all the time, especially for martial artists at Divine Realm and Earth Realm. What was the opportunity my son got? How amazing it is! It is a young crystal stone mine that needs time to cultivate. It seems that he has the spiritual marrow I left behind, the spiritual marrow, Thunder Yang tree, Thunder Yang flower, and all the other treasures can help to improve the quality of the land. If the mountain is turned into a real Thunder Yang treasure land, the crystal stones will soon develop and produce lots of medium-grade crystals. In an instant, Zhang Guangyi roughly analyzed the situation, and the more he thought about it, the more shocked he felt. All his son's achievements were like those of a heaven state strong, and he was so proud of his son. Well, Uncle Zhang, you should let go of that tree since you have hugged it for such a long time. In the eyes of the others, Zhang Guangyi appeared to be hugging the tree while his mind was wandering, which was so weird. Therefore, Shen Qingqing noticed what he was doing and then pointed at Tiny Tot beside Little Hai. Uncle Zhang, what do you think about Tiny Tot? Shen Qingqing asked. Puff. Zhang Guangyi roused himself and took a long breath. He nodded at Wang Zanping and put the formation stone back to block the chi from all the treasures. Seeing the profound array, Zhang Guangyi burst out laughing. Even I was blinded by his excellent skills. He spoke highly of Zhang Han. Wang Zanping's eyes lit up again when he saw Tiny Tot. Its body was still like a black hole and no one could scan it with their soul sense. It is not a penguin, is it? Zhang Guangyi was confused and asked Shen Qingqing. Of course, it's not a penguin. Shen Qingqing chuckled. Uncle Zhang, you may not believe it, Tiny Tot's name was given by Meng Meng, while Dai and Little Hai are Zhang Han's pets. Tiny Tot belongs to Xian, my sister-in-law. Brother Han said it was transformed from the boat of curse. Curse, boat? Zhang Guangyi was stunned and asked in astonishment. The boat with the uncertain track, that always runs into relics and devours yin energy wantonly? Even martial artists at Heaven Realm are unwilling to face that boat. Was the penguin really transformed from that boat? Yes, they are connected in some way to each other, but I don't have the actual details. Uncle Zhang, you can ask Brother Han when he comes back. Shen Qingqing smiled. This. Zhang Guangyi turned to gaze at Xian, who was smiling while chatting with Rong Jiali and the other women. They seemed to be talking about something interesting, and outbursts of laughter could be heard from time to time. According to my soul sense, Yan is just an ordinary person. What secrets does she hold? I don't know. The more they talked about it, the more surprised they were about Zhang Han and Xian. All of a sudden, Shen Qingqing's cell phone rang. It was from Captain Xuanhuan. Hello. Shen Qingqing frowned after he ended the call. Then he looked at Gai Xingkong and Zhang Guengyu and said, Uncle Gai and Uncle Zhang, thank you for being here, otherwise we will be in trouble. What's the problem? Zhang Guengyu stopped smiling. There are two kinds of divine objects and many holy objects in Mount New Moon and Golden Mortal School, which is known to almost the whole martial arts world now. Brother Han killed dozens of disciples from Wind Snow School not long ago and they are using this as an excuse to denounce Brother Han. Now they are putting pressure on the government. Before Chen Chenking finished speaking, they heard buzz. Instructor Liu hurriedly took the call and his face changed slightly after he hung up. They are giving me only 2 days to get the troops out of here. They said they should not interfere too much in the affairs of the martial arts world. Who is their leader? Zhang Guengyu asked. Yofeng, King Zhen's disciple. Captain Xuanhuan said his strength was close to that of Earth Realm. Shan Chenking replied, we do not have to be worried if he comes here alone, but there are 10 martial artists accompanying him. I see. Zhang Guengyu narrowed his eyes slightly to hide his anger. Don't worry, it is just a few numerous underlings. I'll kill King Zhen's if he dares to come here. Boom. Everyone present looked at Zhang Guengyu in astonishment. Guengyu, you. Gai Xingkong was stunned. Yes. Zhang Guengyu nodded. Instead of explaining to them, he turned to gaze at Meng Meng, who was playing in the back mountain and smiled. I'm going to accompany my granddaughter. Zhang Han's smile was similar to his father's. But Zhang Han's smile was more doting. Oh, by the way, withdraw the troops and don't embarrass the officials. Tomorrow, I will call someone stronger to guard the mountain. No matter how many disciples have been sent by Wind Snow School, I will kill them all. Zhang Guengyu strode to the pet area. Gulp. Instructor Liu swallowed hard in his confusion. Glancing at Zhao Feng and Chen Chenking, he sighed. Well, Uncle Zhang sure has a hot temper. What should I do? Just do whatever Uncle Zhang says. Zhao Feng laughed. Formidable enemies, they will all die here. The atmosphere was relaxed again. The members of the security group realized that their support was now stronger after the return of their boss's parents. Granddaughter, come here and give Grandpa a hug. Zhang Guengyu stretched out both arms when he approached Meng Meng. Huh? Meng Meng blinked, glanced at him and then turned around. No, big hi, let's go. Woo, 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 woo. Dai roared and ran alongside with Meng Meng, holding her hand in its hands. Wow, Grandpa is going to catch you. Zhang Guengyu burst out laughing. Then he ran after Dai slowly. Ah, the bad guy is coming. Big hi, run. The pet area was livelier than before. It was late. After playing for more than half an hour, they were ready to go back to the house and continue talking. By the way, Uncle Zhang, Xian said, some of your belongings in the Zhang clan of Shangjing were auctioned off during the Spring Festival, but Zhang Han managed to get all of them back. Now they are placed in the first villa on the left of the castle. The villa for you, Uncle Zhang and Aunt Ron can live there, or the second and fourth floors of the castle. We will take the villa with the old furniture. Zhang Guengyu replied with a smile. Okay, I'll send someone to clean it up later. Xian said with a smile. Let's go to the castle for a rest and have some fruits and tea. While they went to the castle, Zhao Feng, Instructor Liu and Wang Zanping went back to their own houses. Rong Jiaxin, Zhang Li, Zif, Chen Chenking and Gai Xingkong followed Xian to the castle. The first floor was quite spacious. They sat on the sofa in the hall and there were fruits and drinks on the table. They continued talking about the topics they discussed earlier. Rong Jiali asked Xian about their sweet love stories and they burst out laughing from time to time. Meng Meng was curious about her grandmother, who always wore a big hat. The atmosphere on Mount New Moon was so good. Zhang Han was in a better environment. He spent several hours defeating several small sects using the Heaven-Earth formation. When he came to a vast area of fog, his eyes narrowed slightly. This is Wind Snow School. This was the shortest way to Heavenly Knights sect. Chapter 718, Wind Snow School. The mountain range stretched for several miles and the first gate of the sect could be seen clearly. It had suffered a lot of damages. Some of the mountains were also in a mess, as if they had just survived a fierce war. On the inner side, the towering main mountain was surrounded by clouds and the majestic stone gate of Wind Snow School loomed with layers of formation around. Zhang Han walked along the edge, stepped on the top of a tree and surveyed the area around him. 5 minutes later, there was a sudden energy surge ahead. Zhang Han pondered and flew to the other side. In a small open space in the jungle, there was a man at Grandmaster Peak fighting with a woman at last stage. Although there was a gap in strength, their battle was still in full swing. 1. You are not aggressive while attacking with your sword. You can't even defeat the low-level disciples of small sects, let alone the evil creatures of Heavenly Knight's sect. The man with a long face shook his head while waving his sword. I don't believe it. I can also kill the enemies. The girl was annoyed and began attacking the man at a higher speed, blocking all the directions he might move to with her gleaming sword. Better than just now. The man nodded approvingly. Humphrey, Brother Liao, be careful not to be defeated by me. They kept talking while fighting, making it seem more like a performance. I'll show you how I kill the evil creatures of Heavenly Knight's sect when that day comes. 1. Your strength still needs to be improved. You can participate in large-scale battles when you reach Divine Realm. From their conversation, Zhang Han realized that the relationship between Heavenly Knight's sect and Wind Snow School was worse than what the rumors were. Taking a glance at the two disciples, Zhang Han had no intention of killing them. He had not reached Heavenly Knight's sect yet, and these two disciples had no impact on the battle between the two sects. However, when Zhang Han was about to leave, he suddenly frowned and turned his gaze to one side. After thinking for a short while, he decided to have a look, since he had been discovered. Zhang Han withdrew his invisibility shield and walked out of his shelter. Swish. The two fighters stopped to look at Zhang Han vigilantly. Who are you? Someone asked calmly behind them. It was a middle-aged man with a pointed mouth and surging chi. Though he did not scan the man with his soul sense, Zhang Han knew that the man was at least at God Realm Peak stage or Earth Realm early stage. Zhang Han kept calm as he gazed at the man. I'm Nanshi, Shi Fenghu's brother. Zhang Han said. Zhang Han made up an identity for himself. He was among the first batch of people who entered the world lit and was sure that there were no other disciples from Wind Snow School here. Your token? I followed Brother Shi to fight against the Hallan clan in the west and lost all my belongings. Huh? The pointy-mouthed man frowned and asked in disbelief, why did you go to the west? What else could we do? Zhang Han answered, what's wrong with your subsect? The main sect has given you clear instructions, but you are still so miserable. You'd better give me an explanation for it, otherwise, you know how ill-tempered First Elder is. Hiss. The idea of being punished by the First Elder apparently frightened the man, as his expression suddenly changed. Although he did not believe the words of the strange man in front of him, he felt guilty when it came to this matter. The two young disciples came to them and made an obeisance to the pointy-mouthed man. Then they stepped back to look at Zhang Han from the side. Humphrey. The pointy-mouthed man snorted. They should recall all of us before the worldlet was isolated from the main world. We are here to face Heavenly Knight's sect alone, and any other subsects in the worldly, except for our main sect, would be like us if they were in the same situation. How dare you, a young man at Grandmaster late stage, question me? Zhang Han paused and made an obeisance. I'm not questioning you, he said. I just want to know what the current situation is like and report it to the First Elder as ordered. Perhaps he will come here in person. Will the First Elder come here personally? The pointy-mouthed man was surprised and then frowned. 1 second later, follow me back to the sect and I'll report this to Lord Earth Tiger. Okay. Zhang Han nodded and followed them to Wind Snow School. Zhang Han felt it was so funny that he entered Wind Snow School before going to Heavenly Knight's sect. Did this seem like penetrating into the enemy's territory? Zhang Han was not nervous at all. Now he had 8,000 thunderclouds and was able to exert some special skills. You are Shi Fenghu's brother? Wan, the female disciple, looked carefully at Zhang Han. Why are you still at last stage? Shi Fenghu's brothers are all at Divine Realm or Grandmaster Peak. Why are you so weak? She did not believe what Zhang Han said. Both the pointy-mouthed man and the young man surnamed Liao turned to look at Zhang Han. Zhang Han hesitated for a while and sighed. Brother Hu, myself and the other 11 brothers, were all imprisoned by the Halan clan in the west until Brother Si rescued us. The pointy-mouthed man looked depressed. Has Shi Fenghu reached Divine Realm? He had helpers. Zhang Han replied casually. Based on what he knew, Zhang Han made up the story about the First Elder. First Elders were usually the powerful managers of sects, only second to the sect chiefs, and most of them were ill-tempered. Perhaps there were Second Elders, Third Elders, or even Fourth Elders in a large sect. But First Elders were the most common. Zhang Han was not afraid of having his disguise revealed, and he had confidence in his escape skills. What he was doing here was like a game for Zhang Han. When he reached the foot of Main Mount, Zhang Han saw that all the surrounding buildings had been destroyed and only the main mount with the most powerful heaven-earth formation was still standing. Buzz! The pointy-mouthed man took out a token and some of the clouds disappeared, revealing the huge mountain gate. The gate was 50 meters high, and on top of it stood a dazzling sign: Wind Snow School. Go in. The pointy-mouthed man said, I'll take you to the guest room first. They entered the sect. Liao told Wan, go and wait me in that place and I'll teach you some sword skills later. Okay. Wan gave him a meaningful look and left him. Only Zhang Han was wearing modern clothes. The other 3 were dressed in long robes. Looking in from the gate, Zhang Han found that the sect covered a large area and there were many buildings. Occasionally, 1 or 2 figures could be seen shuttling around in the mountains. Zhang Han was taken to a deserted guest house for him to rest. The pointy-mouthed man remained outside the house, blocked his voice with his soul sense while he gave orders to disciple Liao. Go and ask Lord Earth Tiger to come over here. I do not believe what he just said, and he will felt more pain than death if he is trying to trick me. Yes. Liao cast an indifference glance at Zhang Han's room and then left for the mountain top. Ha ha. The pointy-mouthed man laughed and decided to wait outside the room. 1 minute later, there was still no sound from the room. When he broke into the room, he was stunned at what he saw. Where is he? Swish. He rushed to the bed, only to find a small grass puppet on it. His face darkened when he sensed the soul sense energy in the puppet. Damn it, it is just a substitute, who is investigating our Wind Snow School. Do you think our heaven-earth formation is just a joke? The pointy-mouthed man felt very exasperated. He thought the strange man he saw just now was just a substitute, who disappeared after entering the sect because of the blockage of the energy supply. At the foot of the mountain, Liao was stunned when he walked into the woods. Why are you here? Liao asked. I am waiting for you. Zhang Han smiled. Those were the last words Liao heard. Swish. Liao blacked out before he saw what happened clearly. There was a burst of energy. Zhang Han began to change his appearance, altering his height from more than 1.8 meters to 1.7 meters and turning his face into that of Liao's. Then, Zhang Han's face began to glow as he refined Liao's soul. After absorbing all the memories of Liao in recent years, Zhang Han felt his head aching a little. Though Zhang Han did not take over Liao's body, this method had the same side effects. Zhang Han could not suppress his soul sense and was thus struck several times by T-wood thunder, which was painful. But it was nothing to Zhang Han since he had endured even more painful effects before. Liao Lang. It was an interesting name. According to Liao Lang's memories, Zhang Han knew that he had dated 13 girls in the subsect of Wind Snow School and one was his new friend. What was more interesting was that the 13 girls did not know about each other, due to Liao Lang's great skill. The place Liao mentioned was a bamboo grove at the side of the sect, where he and one usually met secretly. After thinking about it, Zhang Han made a short detour and walked up the mountain along the main road. He was not interested in meeting one and wasting time on her. However, Zhang Han was unlucky this time. When he reached the mountainside 5 minutes later, Zhang Han saw one standing on a platform. "Brother Liao, I've been waiting for a long time already." One ran toward Zhang Han happily. "You must get the new task. Is that stupid guy acting suspiciously? Are we going to report it to Lord Earth Tiger? He will not be able to hide his identity in front of Lord Earth Tiger. Let's go and complete the task as fast as possible. Then, Brother Liao, you can teach me sword method." As she said the last two words, the girl became shy and her face flushed. But she got the wrong person. "You know too much." Zhang Han shook his head slightly. The girl replied in a low voice, "I know every part of your body." She was ready to hug Zhang Han. Zhang Han's mouth trembled slightly as he looked at the girl coming nearer. "Get lost." He waved his right hand. Bang! The girl was hit and flew tens of meters away and fell into a ravine in the woods. Zhang Han gave her an indifferent look and waved his right hand downward. There was a light wind stirring up layers of leaves. Then Zhang Han continued walking up the mountain. He sorted out all the information he had about Wind Snow School. Liao Lang was only a low-level disciple and not well known. There was no sect chief for each subsect of Wind Snow School. Instead, they had Lord Sky Dragon and Lord Earth Tiger. Their direct line subordinates were the elders, who were in charge of the Law Enforcement Hall. The Law Enforcement Hall of Wind Snow School in Cultivation World had been destroyed and only Sky Dragon and Earth Tiger survived. It was thanks to the Heaven-Earth formation of the main mount, which cost Wind Snow School 30,000 crystal stones and helped the sect's alliance to resist the attack of Heavenly Knight's sect. Sky Dragon and Earth Tiger were two aged men at Heaven Middle Stage and Heaven Early Stage respectively. Sky Dragon had been cultivating and seldom left his cave. The mountain was originally called Mount Double, which was like a big awl with a small inverted awl in the valley. Sky Dragon of Cultivation World was said to be at the top layer refining a high-level weapon, and all the martial art resources would be sent to him. In the past year or so, all the high-quality resources and the treasures in stock here had been sent to the top layer, which was a huge expense. "I'll go and find Earth Tiger first." Zhang Han pondered for a while and then took out a holy gem from his space ring. After he crushed the gem, it turned into small stars and gathered around him. The effect can last 10 hours. I can't stay in the presence of a Heaven Realm martial artist for too long. Chapter 719, He is also amazing. Swish. Zhang Han rushed to the mountain top. The mountain was so high that it took him 20 minutes to reach the palace of Lord Earth Tiger, even though he was traveling at rapid speed. "Brother Wu." Zhang Han greeted a man outside the palace. "Liao Lang, you should be dating your sister. Why are you here?" The man replied without any emotion. Brother Ma stopped a young man outside the sect, who claimed to be Shi Fengwu's brother. Brother Ma had doubts about his identity and sent me here to ask Lord Earth Tiger for help. Zhang Han said obsequiously. Zhang Han realized that Liao Lang was regarded as one of the lowliest among all the male disciples in the sect. No matter how attractive he was to the girls, he was always a coward whenever he encountered any stronger men. Someone from outside the world elite. Brother Wu's eyes lit up. "Wait a minute, I'll report it to Lord Earth Tiger." Wu rushed into the palace. 3 minutes later, an aged man in a green robe walked out. His chi and blood were strong and anyone could judge from his movements that he was a super martial artist. Zhang Han, being the exception, shook his head. The man was even unable to control his chi and blood, and it seemed that he had misunderstood Heaven Realm, or he was not qualified to be at the stage of Heaven Realm. If it was for the second reason, the aged man must have consumed many spirit treasures in order to reach Heaven Realm by force. As a result, his foundation was unstable and it would take him a longer time to digest the remaining energies, which were actually useless. Not all the medicinal pellets would give him a lot of benefits, and most of them were noxious to some extent. No matter which level the medicinal pellets were at, low level, middle level or high level, they must be taken regularly. There were hidden dangers in medicinal pellet abuse, and only the supreme level pellets could be perfectly absorbed. It required a large reserve of knowledge to learn about medicinal pellets, and Zhang Han happened to be one of the knowledgeable ones. Without any hesitation, he took a look at Earth Tiger. Earth Tiger was an aged man with a long beard and a calm face. According to Liao Lang's memories, Earth Tiger's surname was Han, but no one knew what his first name was. Acting according to Liao Lang's habitude, Zhang Han bowed to the aged man, saying, "Lord Earth Tiger." However, Lord Earth Tiger was so indifferent that he did not even spare a glance at Zhang Han before he flew toward the mountain. "Let's follow him and have a look," Brother Wu said. Zhang Han followed him slowly. When the two of them reached the foot of the mountain, Lord Earth Tiger had already left, leaving the pointy-mouthed man alone in that area. "Lord Earth Tiger has confirmed that it was just a small trick and we need not be worried about it. Perhaps someone from Heavenly Knight's sect wants to check on us. Ha ha, the gate of the small world is opened and we'll have countless helpers. They must be scared of us," the pointy-mouthed man said scornfully. After discussing about this matter, the three of them left for their own houses. Zhang Han returned to Liao Lang's room. "He shares a yard with the others and his sisters will soon see through me if I do something different from what he usually does. I'd better look for chances to find Sky Dragon. Is he refining a 6th level spirit treasure with so many resources?" Zhang Han frowned slightly. He soon unearthed a plan from Liao Lang's memory. In addition to Sky Dragon, there were 3 other disciples on the mountain top, and 2 of them were addicted to alcohol and meat. Some servants would send wine and meat to them every few days, and one of the servants often bullied Liao Lang. The servant was at Grandmaster Peak and ideal for Zhang Han to deal with. It seemed to be safe here, but should there be any signs of a battle, it could be easily sensed by Sky Dragon and Earth Tiger, who would seal the Heaven-Earth formation, and this would create problems for Zhang Han. These were all small matters, since when Snow School in Cultivation World was at its weakest state now. When Zhang Han was thinking about it, he saw someone in front of him. Zhang Han paused and looked at the girl helplessly. "Lanlan, come to your elder sister and let me see if you became thinner than before. Get lost." Zhang Han realized that he might have chosen the wrong person. Liao Lang was indeed an amazing man. Not knowing how to get along with Liao Lang's sisters, Zhang Han returned to Liao's residence and pretended to be undergoing cultivation. The time in the small world was the same as that of the outside world, with 24 hours a day, and the sun here also rose in the east and set in the west. Obviously, there was a fixed space node corresponding to it somewhere in the outside world. Zhang Han spent the night and went Snow School. When Meng Meng did not see Zhang Han the next morning, she was unhappy. Xian, Meng Meng, Zhang Li and Zif guided Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali to the restaurant. Zhang Guangyu smiled and asked, "What's the matter, my dear granddaughter? Why are you pouting? Papa hasn't come back yet. Why isn't he here since both my grandparents have come back?" Meng Meng replied morosely. Just at this moment, ding, Zhang Guangyu took out his cell phone to check the message. Then he smiled at Meng Meng. "Give Grandpa a hug and I'll call someone to bring your father back." "Really?" Meng Meng looked up, with her shining eyes unblinking. "Of course, it's true. Give Grandpa a hug and I'll make a call immediately," Zhang Guangyu said with confidence. "Okay, Grandpa." Meng Meng promised him without any hesitation and stretched out her arms. "Wow!" Zhang Guangyu burst out laughing and held Meng Meng in his arms. "You naughty girl, it's so difficult to catch you." Both Rong Jiali and Xian were amused by them. Meng Meng forgave her grandpa for calling her a naughty girl in order to get her papa back. "Make the phone call," Meng Meng urged Zhang Guangyu. "Okay, I'll do it now." Zhang Guangyu grinned happily. He found it so comfortable with Meng Meng in his arms. It was hard to cut off blood ties. Though Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali just came back yesterday and saw Meng Meng for the first time, their love for the little girl soared. Zhang Wenyu took out his cell phone and called someone. Wu, how many of you came out? Among all the people present, only Rong Jiali and Rong Jiaxin could hear the other man's voice clearly. There are 16 of us, including me. Are you in Shangjing, young master? I'm in Hong Kong with my granddaughter in my arms and she is so pretty and clever. Zhang Wenyu tried to flatter Meng Meng, which was in vain. Then he cleared his throat and said, Zhang Han, my son, is now in the world lit looking for me, and his destination should be Heavenly Knight's sect. Send someone, no, send a team to pick him up and ask Uncle Dong to come out. You have only one day to find him, otherwise you should ask Uncle Dong to come to Hong Kong tomorrow. Tell all the disciples to find him and bring him back. Zhang Wenyu's tone sounded decisive. On the other side, Wu replied seriously, I see, Zhang Han is young master's son. I'll do it now. Do you have his photo? Yes, I'll send it to you now. Zhang Wenyu hung up. Then he gave his cell phone to Ziyan. Yan, help me to send him one of Han's photos. He had to turn to Ziyan for help since he had no recent pictures of Zhang Han. Okay. Ziyan nodded and sent several photos using his cell phone. Got it. The other side replied. They began to take action. When Zhang Guangyu walked toward the dining hall with Meng Meng in his arms, Meng Meng squirmed, all right, Grandpa, let me down, I'm 4 years old and I can walk on my own. Ziyan almost could not help laughing when she saw Meng Meng's serious face. The little girl did not complain at all when she was in Zhang Han's arms and she even asked for a hug from her father. Obviously, it was a different treatment here. Zhang Wenyu was confused at Meng Meng's action, which was like burning the bridge after crossing it. Seeing that Meng Meng was much happier now, Zhang Wenyu put her on the ground. Then he took the little girl's hand and walked toward the dining hall slowly. It was 8 o'clock in the morning and the restaurant was full of people. Among them, many men in suits attracted Zhang Wenyu's attention. Obviously, they were all rich men with the demeanor of commercial giants. They are all VIP members of the restaurant. Ziyan whispered. I see. Zhang Wenyu nodded. At 9 o'clock last night, Ziyan chatted with Zhang Li and Rong Jiali for a long time after coaxing Meng Meng to sleep. They talked about many things and Ziyan went to bed at 11 o'clock. As for Zhang Li and Rong Jiali, they did not rest until 12 o'clock. Now Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali knew how Zhang Han spoiled Meng Meng. They supported Zhang Han without making any comments, and Ziyan realized that all grandparents were the same when they doted on their grandchildren. Ziyan was under great pressure since she seemed to be the only one in this family to refuse Meng Meng's requests sometimes. Why should she be the strict parent? Ziyan felt helpless. Fortunately, Meng Meng was obedient most of the time and Ziyan was proud of her. She knew that it was due to her upbringing in the past years. When they entered the dining hall, they immediately attracted the attention of Luo Chengwen, Luo Shan and Patriarch Chu. They were here to meet Zhang Han's parents. Instead of enjoying the breakfast, they did not expect that someone among them was familiar with Zhang Guangyu. Patriarch Zhang, long time no see. Luo Chengwen said. He greeted Zhang Guangyu with a smile as soon as they sat down. I'm Luo Chengwen. When I followed my elders to Shangjing for business several years ago, I had the honor to work with Patriarch Zhang. Well, I'm not Patriarch Zhang now and you can call me Brother Zhang. Zhang Guangyu replied casually. He was very open and did not care too much about the appellation. Brother Zhang. Luo Chengwen said and moved back to his seat. All the others who envied Luo Chengwen intended to do the same. But it was time for breakfast and they decided to wait for other opportunities. At the same time, 7 martial artists entered the world led by a man with an oval face and thick eyebrows. The man was in his 30s and was 1.75 meters in height. He was Wu, Zhang Guangyu's subordinate. He was a talented disciple from Heavenly Knight's sect. After he assigned the task, Wu went back to the worldlet with his men. Let's go back to the sect first and take emergency measures if our young lord is not there, he said calmly. Then he flew toward one side. While marching in the worldlet, they had to be on the alert to wind Snow School's attack at all times and take the longer way if necessary. Otherwise, they would be like Zhang Han, who chose the short route and went straight into Wind Snow School. Chapter 720, Heavenly Knights Sect. In the morning, Zhang Han came to the sect's restaurant. There were some disciples there, eating and chatting. The disciples of the sect usually ate once every few days. Now there were about 20 people in the hall, indicating that there were not many disciples remaining in the sect. The situation was unfavorable for Zhang Han. The other disciples here would soon discover that two of the girls were missing. Zhang Han decided not to delay any longer and planned to take action after getting some useful information here. Some powerful elders will be sent here by the main sect. Yes, it is said that our sect chief is going to refine a treasure better than a divine weapon. The whole main sect is excited and I'm afraid the first elder will come here in person. If Lord Sky Dragon in Kungzu World succeeds this time, we will get countless resources and a higher position. Lord Earth Tiger advanced to Heaven Realm half a year ago and he will get more resources too. How lucky his disciples are. My master had been at Earth Realm for more than 20 years, but he said he would be able to reach Heaven Realm in 3 to 5 years. Zhang Han spent 10 minutes on his breakfast and received some useful information. The Grand Elder of Wind Snow School will be coming with spirit treasures and other resources. Perhaps they were going to refine a 6th level or 5th level spirit treasure. There were too many possibilities. I don't have much time. Zhang Han thought about it and then left the dining hall. On the way up, he walked from the bamboo grove on the side to the kitchen, and the faint smell of food drifted out of the room. It's time to serve the dishes to them. Zhang Han did not see anyone near the kitchen, even though he had been waiting for 5 minutes. Another 5 minutes later, he again pretended to pass the kitchen. Stop. He heard a disdainful voice. Zhang Han paused to look at that direction, then he saw a fatty who often bullied Liao Lang. Liao Lang, how many times have you passed the kitchen? What's wrong with you? I'm sorry, brother, I'll leave after picking up my sister. Zhang Han replied in embarrassment. Which sister? Sister 1. Huh? The fatty snorted and said jealously, I'll be sending dishes to the mountaintop half an hour later. Now I'm short of 150 grams of deer leg meat. Go to Anfing Lake and catch one. Hurry up. But Sister 1 will be here soon. Are you refusing to carry out my order? Can you afford to be punished by the lords if their meals are delayed? The fatty glared at Zhang Han. This. Zhang Han pretended to be thinking about it, as his face darkened. 5 seconds later, Zhang Han approached the fatty and said in a weak voice, Brother, I'm not good in that aspect and one is unhappy with me. I'll lose the chance if I break my promise this time. How about I introduce a girl to you and then? The fatty's eyes lit up. After looking around to the left and right, he grinned and asked, Really? Of course, it's nothing to me as long as you can help me. Okay. The fatty patted Zhang Han's shoulder with a smile and then he turned around, looking at all the 5 or 6 disciples busy working outside the kitchen door. Wait for me here and I'll send the dishes to the mountaintop when I come back. Yes, let's go. The fatty gave Zhang Han a hint with his eyes and then they walked toward the deep woods on one side. On the way, the fatty said, Liao Lang, I didn't mean to bully you before. It was because you are too amorous and I heard you have dated more than 10 girls in the sect. You can be assured that I will help you in the future. The fatty looked at Zhang Han meaningfully. Zhang Han understood what he meant and replied, Okay, thank you. Of course, Sister 1 is not the only girl I know, there are more girls I can introduce to you. Okay. The fatty nodded with satisfaction. After walking toward the side for some time, he looked around surreptitiously with his small eyes. When will she come? I can't serve the meal too late in the evening. He liked one, whom he had seen before, but he did not have any chance with her. Liao Lang got along well with many girls because of his appearance, which annoyed most of the male disciples in the sect, including the fatty. Now that Liao Lang invited him to join them, he was willing to change his attitude toward Liao Lang. However, after he said this, he found that Liao Lang's tone became very indifferent. "She won't come here, but I can send you to her." "Why, where is she?" The fatty turned to look at Liao Lang. What he saw was a palm approaching his head. Bang! 15 minutes later, the fatty came out of the woods and went straight to the kitchen. At the kitchen door, 2 disciples stopped him. They grinned. "Brother, we heard what that guy said. Has he introduced his sister to you? Why did you come back so quickly? Have you? Huh? Behave yourselves, and I don't want to hear anyone discussing it, otherwise I'm going to drive you all out." The fatty snorted. "Yes, yes, yes." The 2 disciples smiled meaningfully. Under their gazes, their brother entered the kitchen, took the dishes and then went up the mountain by a side road. 10 minutes later, after crossing the gate guarded by 5 men and passing through a cave, Zhang Han came to the top of the mountain, which looked like a big platform. The ground here was very flat and the scenery was pleasant. There were a few buildings around, making it like a luxury manor. In the sky, there were dark clouds right above filled with high pressure, which were rolling and surging everywhere. Zhang Han took a look at them and knew that the clouds were connected to the spirit treasure refined by Sky Dragon in the Cultivation World. The whole magnificent square was surrounded by energy. Zhang Han was relieved when he saw this. It seems that the ambitious Sky Dragon wants to refine a 6th level spirit treasure. Although the success rate is very low, even the defective product will be at top 5th level, which should not be underestimated. After standing still for 2 seconds, Zhang Han ran to the back. There were several disciples of Sky Dragon living in the houses in a row, and Zhang Han was here to send wine and meat to them. Before he got to the house, he saw 2 people sitting at a table, and the man with a round face was rubbing his hands. The man said, "Give the dishes to me. I've been longing for meat for the past 3 days. I'm coming." Zhang Han imitated the fatty and went to them obsequiously. Then he took out many delicious food and wine from a space treasure. Gulp, 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 nice. The other drank a jar of wine at one go, while the round-faced man began to gnaw at a large pig leg. Zhang Han had been standing on one side, still in about position. When the 2 men were half full, they slowed down and took a look at him. "Why are you still here?" "Well, Uncle Hu, I heard that Lord Sky Dragon is going to refine a treasure better than a divine weapon," which shook the main sect. "The first elder will bring someone here and reward us with lots of resources for cultivation. What does this have to do with you? As a disciple of Wind Snow School, we are proud of the revitalization of the sect, so I would like to inquire about this matter." "Nothing worth inquiring. The martial art resources sent here have nothing to do with you." The round-faced man shook his head. He was satisfied with the dishes and decided to say more. "At the early stage, all the resources will be sent to Lord Sky Dragon. If he succeeds, there will be more resources for you." "Hiss, really? What good news. But when will he succeed?" "See the dark clouds above? In a few days, he will succeed when you hear a thundering sound. Well, you can go down the mountain. If he succeeds, all of us will gain merits and will be rewarded with lots of resources." "Yes." Zhang Han did not ask too much. He nodded and walked off slowly. The 2 men were still chatting behind him. With the help of Thunderstone, many treasures will be turned into energy waves. Only our master can come up with such a good method. "Yes. The moment the thunder falls, it will be recorded in the history books of Wind Snow School." Zhang Han smiled after hearing what they said, and then he looked up at the clouds, the gathered quintessence of spirit treasures. The thunder, the clouds above reminded Zhang Han of the 8,000 thunder clouds in his soul sense sea, and that he would thunder. "Fine, I'm lacking in them, too. It's time to leave." Zhang Han thought about it and left the cave. Instead of returning to his residence, he went straight down the mountain. During this period, he met more than a dozen people who greeted him, and there were even several powerful people asking him what he was going to do. He told them he was going to catch some food ingredients. No one cared about him as they were all busy looking for something or someone. They must have discovered that several disciples were missing. At the sect gate, Zhang Han took out his token to dispel the mist and then quickly left the sect. The heaven-earth formation is big trouble. They must be on the alert because of the missing disciples, and the main sect is going to help them. My method will be useless. Zhang Han was interested in the thunderclouds above. If they were full of energy, Zhang Han might be able to expand the number of his own clouds to 10,000 and then he could advance to the innateness stage. One of the ways was to secretly break into the array in the air. But it required adequate preparation. I'll do it if there is an opportunity, but the opportunity can't be forced. Zhang Han shook his head slightly, realizing that this was a big project. He could not come here every day to wait for an opportunity. It's time to go to Heavenly Knight's sect. Zhang Han looked at the east and left Twin Snow School. He slowly reverted to his original appearance. While scanning the surroundings with his soul sense, he found 3 groups of people on the way led by Earthrealm martial artists. Each time when he sensed their soul senses, Zhang Han would withdraw his own and march on secretly. After a 7-hour-long journey, Zhang Han had only 30% of spiritual force left in his body. Then he reached Heavenly Knight's sect. Looking from afar, he found Heavenly Knight's sect surrounded by mountains. In the center of the mountains, there was a giant one which was a large mountain range covering a vast area. The mountain, which was not steep, was characterized by its wide spaces. There was a river around the mountain, which was 100 meters in width. Sensing the surging energy in the river, Zhang Han realized that this was a heaven-earth formation at a higher level than that of Wind Snow School.